Hello! Oh, it's Friday of a very long week, it seems. Wasn't it only Monday we had the Gene Stealer cult coming out and all of their detachments? Many things have happened from the Games Workshop side of stuff. Oh my, many things. Hello? Yes, it is afternoon for me, so it'll be morning for some people. Terribly sorry about that. Plunging fire in 11th edition will give you +1 ballistic skill, so it doesn't change the melter weapon's armor penetration. Nearly 3 o'clock, goodness me, it's crazy. 5 a.m, yeah, people are up early. Okay, there's definitely more people here than I was expecting, considering both the time and the general energy of it. Like, I think 11th edition is getting overhyped now. It's been hyped for months through bad audio streams from Games Workshop, contradictory articles, a question and answer that didn't answer the important questions, and I'm getting kind of tired of it. Fewer people seem to care about what's happening in 11th edition. The comments on most of the Games Workshop articles that come out on the social medias where they share it, people say, can you just release the rules already? I don't care about one paragraph from page 73. It tells me nothing. People still excited are wanting the edition to come, but there hasn't been this much excitement for the leak. Like, oh my goodness, it's out, and the Auspex Tactics video is doing about average, maybe a little below average for his number of views. There's not that much excitement. So I'm surprised there's this many people on stream, especially considering it's afternoon in the UK. And even if we have most of the core rules, it's not actually all of the core rules. We're then missing a lot of the other things that we're going to need for the rules to function. Something like a compatibility document to explain what's going to change from what's in your codex to something new. There's no errata for each faction to say what's changed. The Necron detachments are going to be announced today. I don't think people are that bothered. It's just a bunch of EP boys being like, oh, maybe our Star Shatter Assault will be 1 detachment point. You know, the good detachment, one of the good detachments. They have a lot of good detachments. So people are just not feeling it. Yeah, we can't play 11th edition with half-released rules. So it's just more, hey, maybe we can get some stuff confirmed, or we can see some changes to what has already happened, what has already been released from Games Workshop. We don't know if what we're going to have is real, if this leak is a real leak. Well, it looks like a real leak. It's got enough of the parts correct, and it's a lot of effort to go to take documents and images that have already been shown off and then translate it into French and then get the points correct, the font correct, and then change it into a PDF and then leak it online. It seems unnecessary. I don't think there's any heal, like the rule for healing. That doesn't seem to be in here. And I'm looking, so no rule on healing, so that's gotta come later. This could have been an earlier version of the rules that wasn't fully completed. It also doesn't have the usual introductory stuff of what a tape measure is, that we measure in inches, that we roll d6 as a dice. There is something about Feel No Pain. It says that Feel No Pain is there to negate wounds. It doesn't tell you at what step you roll it or how exactly it works, which is part of the thing that was confusing me. When do you do Feel No Pains? Do you roll all of the things? Yeah, what exactly does D3 mean? You need to have that in the core rules, because some people say, no, 1 or a 2 is 1, 3 or 4 is 2, 5 or 6 is a 3. Other people say 1 is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, 4 is 1, 5 is 2, 6 is 3. There are different ways of doing a D3. And I don't know how many people can Roll a d3. There's no dice in the starter set. Yeah. There's that. There's also no mention, yeah, Lynx is there to say there's no mention of hover, but we have some stuff about aircraft. Not fully explained how it works, but it's there. They've hinted at fast rolling Feel No Pain in articles and such, but never shown it off. We also have more of a problem with all of the information that's coming out, but because people remember things or interpret things and believe that's how it is. Oh yeah, we know that X works this way, and then it turns out it doesn't. And Games Workshop says, oh yeah, Deathwatch, how Deathwatch are going to work. People interpret that as they're going to stay as they are and not be squatted. Other people say, no, they're definitely as good as squatted. And they're back to being Imperial Agents only. Also, Imperial Agents is deleted. And that doesn't seem to be the case, but that's how some people are reading it. Even though we know there's not going to be any detachments released for them, any new ones, that doesn't mean their codex is deleted. We don't know which detachments are staying. Games Workshop said that the codex detachments are fine and any from the campaign books. People then said, oh my goodness, by a mission, they have said that they're going to delete every Grotness and otherwise released detachment that is in the game in 10th edition. So that's not necessarily correct, because we know Subterranean Assault is staying. We don't know about any of the others, even if they haven't been reworked. I think 2 of them for some detachments have just been reworks of existing detachments. At least. Discarding command points, discarding a secondary mission to get a command point. I'm sure they said that wasn't possible anymore in one of their articles, but in the game they showed off, what, 2 days ago? Or was it just yesterday? The days are blurring together. I want to say 2 days ago. They did a battle report, which actually had the players microphoned up and was edited, but they did it in that battle report. But the battle report also showed them off slow rolling all of the save rolls, not rolling them all at once, which is rather inconsistent. I'm sure they also did 2 attacks got through at 2 damage, so that's 8 wounds. I don't think they were doing 2 plus 2 correctly. It is very annoying that our official source for these rules is so unreliable. So I very much understand a lot of people just checking out, not caring until the rules are actually released, and then we'll be able to see what it is. And we've already seen it in the chat, discussions of, well, combat armies are going to be so much better. And it doesn't look like that's necessarily the case. There's a lot of open space on these boards. I'm inside, so it's fine. There's no daylight inside. We don't know if the agents will get a codex. Some people have said, oh, they'll get their codex first, which will delete all of their detachments and leave only units. Other people have said there won't be a codex for Imperial Agents, which means you can continue using all of the units, including like the Deathwatch veterans with the Thunder Hammers and the Storm Shields. Or shields. Shields generally. Big bulky shields that give a 4+ invulnerable save. They're not deleted if the codex never comes out. And yes, Games Workshop is bad at rules, because they give themselves so little time. So expect there to be a pre-launch patch, then a day 1 update, then a week 1 rules update, and at some point in between some part of that will be the official launch of the game. They may release the rules a few days before the box set comes out. Then we can say, hey, got some actual problems here. I wonder if they'll be mentioning the ways to play in the core rules, like in the explanation bit right at the start, where they talk about what a tape measure is, what a model is, what a base is. They don't say if you have to use certain bases in the core rules. That would be for an event pack. I don't know if they would clarify in any document what casual play is and where casual play ends and where match play begins. Yeah, so people are saying online, well, obviously, casual play is only something you do at home with your children. If you go to a club, then that's matched play, And another person says, well, obviously that's not the case. Obviously match play is just referring to tournaments. And we don't know. So they have an explanation, which I like, for terrain in this document thing that we'll look at. How to set up terrain if you're not using the mission deck. Because the mission deck is not required to play the game. It's just the way that most people go to play the game. What happens if I go to the club with your children? Goodness me, you're crossing all reality bounds there, me lad. Or lass. Or friend. Match play is dangerous, only you can prevent fires. What if the matches strike back? Oh my. So this unified play that they were definitely going to do just one particular way of playing the game and everyone plays the same game in exactly the same way? No. No, it's not. Yeah, and these are, of course, terms don't match the previous edition. Well, we didn't really have clear terms. It was just, there's a tournament pack. When do you use the tournament pack? Well, for most people, it was like all the time, because that's what the app says I use. And they had two different documents. One was like the core rules. One was the core rules with rules commentary and patches. There was another version that was only with the tournament changes, which wasn't necessarily the same as the core rules changes. So we had three different versions of the rules going around, and it was not consistent. 8th and 9th edition had in the core book, okay, this is vaguely what open play is. You can do pretty much whatever you want. This is what narrative play is. In 8th edition, it was set missions that were tagged as, this is a narrative mission. You use power level rather than points, but you can use points if you so wish. And then there was match play, which is where you have an equal number of points. Sort of on top of that was tournaments. Sort of. Then for 10th edition, there's combat patrol and there's boarding actions. Then there's normal games. Then there's the tournament rules pack, which is different. Maybe. They've called it the event pack this edition, and we still haven't seen the event pack. And you know what's going to happen with the rules. Even with these leaks. No one's going to read them. People will wait for other people to read them, and then those people will make a YouTube video about it, and they'll make some money off that YouTube video, maybe like 10 or 12 pennies. That'll be lovely. And that's how they'll learn how to play 40k. I'm thinking I might do videos about like just some of the rules. Just a few. Maybe when we actually have the core rules. Because already, from all of the things Games Workshop was saying in Warhammer community, hey, yeah, so you have a force disposition from your detachment. This is important. The force disposition you have determines the mission that you're going to play. That's how it's going to work. And then yesterday, the same time I released a video about the mission deck, they said, oh, yeah, so about that, oh no, that's only for matched play that you do that. In casual play, you can pick whatever force disposition you want. Thanks. Thanks, Games Workshop. That's so good. That's so good. Tenth edition has also changed so many times that people were not keeping up with it. You'd look at a rule and be like, that wasn't how that was. Hazardous wasn't like that at all. How are we doing that in this game? Pivoting? What's a pivoting? So many rules added and changed. So yeah, people will remember one version of the rules. And yes, there are many indeed ways to learn how to do a thing. Reading a book for some people, having your own playing it, trying to learn it from someone else. Please don't go to a tournament and expect your opponent to teach you the rules. That's it. Try and have a good understanding of the rules before you go, and then you can get rule checked. Also, tournaments might be underestimating how much time it'll take to play these new edition games. What's the most impactful thing I've seen so far? Probably to be with the characters in the unit at the start of the game, and that's it. That is one unit for the whole game. There's no, if you kill the bodyguard, then the characters get split off, and they're their own unit, so they wouldn't have to take a battle shock test, because even though all the bodyguards dead around them, they are now their own separate unit. And that would count as one dead unit in 10th edition, it doesn't in 11th edition. This matters for healing. So if we have a Hospitaller in the unit, and everyone except the Hospitaller is dead, you can still use a miracle dice to resurrect models, because the entire unit hasn't been destroyed yet. Does the character keep the unit's keywords? I don't think they would, because keywords would be based on the models that are in that unit. This is something that Games Workshop would have to clarify. But I think a Hospitaller by herself, without any battle sisters, wouldn't have the battle line keyword, because there are no battle line models in that unit to give them the keyword. I think. That also means like a Space Marine captain with intercessors wouldn't have the objective secured rule if all the intercessors were dead. This is something we don't know. This is a, oh yeah, maybe it works the way I'm saying, maybe it doesn't in the slightest. Okay, we'll have a look at the words that are on the page. I'm terribly sorry that this is an English translation of the French leak, and it is a machine translation. I know most of you speak English. I know you're all typing in English, as you should be. I don't know French well enough to use the non-translated version. Also, that version is now locked behind like a paywall thing. Or just locked generally behind a Google document. I had one good French teacher. Then I was taught French by a German woman who didn't speak very good English. And we don't think she spoke very good French either. This is not a new thing, of course. As soon as Google Translate could translate some things, there has been discussion of, hey, maybe it's not doing it so accurately or correctly. So it is machine done because no one has been a French person for, no one's been a French person for long enough. They haven't existed long enough. No one who speaks French and English has translated it and released it as a document, because for the size of the document and the understanding of 40k that you need to have, it would take far longer than we've given them. If there was an actual human translated version, I would use that. So I'm sorry that we have internet machine translated version. Okay. Okay. Is that moving? That is moving. Right. Now, very kindly, this is the version that Lynx has given me. Ew, Claude AI? Okay. So it has some of the copies of the French document. A document that I don't have access to. Because for some reason, as soon as an English person tries to touch something French, it just breaks and disappears. This is why I'm not allowed into Paris anymore. Haven't been there since, about August 1997 for no particular reason. Right, we're moving units. That's the first part. So it tells us we haven't got like a section 1, 2, or 3. We start, or section 1 or 2, we start with part 3. So section 1 and 2 of this document is just missing. There are the usual many kinds of movements. You can move through friendly models. There's no limit about vehicles not being able to move through vehicles from the looks of it. Unless that's words on the page that I'm not seeing. You can move through models from friendly units. You can move through any space through which only the base can pass. I think the rules would be much easier if they gave a base size to, like, all of the tanks. And it doesn't matter which version of the tank you have, because a 2nd edition Immolator is smaller than a more recent 9th edition Immolator or 8th edition Immolator. That's an awkward thing. Gene Stealer Discord has some translations. I should probably join that at some point. Right, you got to move it in a straight line. Okay. Good. Good. It can't go further than its full distance. That's of course important to say. Yeah, you're not doing the front of the base to the back of the base. Standard movement rules should apply, as is my interpretation of these rules. You can pivot a model around the center a bunch of times. Games Workshop shown off how that would work. Where the center of mass is for a tank is also something that's up for debate. Are you familiar with the Vitruvian Man? This is the guy you've seen who has his arms out and his legs out, and there's also another version of him behind with his arms up in a star pose and his legs out in a star pose. And people read this ancient document because it's a Roman, yeah. A Roman called Vitruvius had this explanation of like the human form is perfect, it can go within a circle and within a square. And then in the Renaissance, people were trying to draw that and it just came out horrible. It didn't look right at all. And eventually it was realized the center of mass for the circle and the center of the square is not the same center. Then it looks right. So now there's discussions over where is the center of a tank with a long barrel, like a Vanquisher tank? Where are you pivoting around as the center of that? It's up to... Okay, there's unnecessary debate, really. And then people are fighting over, oh, hang on, are you allowed to change the turret? Can the turret move? Is there something to say that at some point you can't change the turret? Yeah, Da Vinci's picture. Yes, that's the Vitruvian Man. What if the turret is aimed at the side? Hey, I don't know. I just don't know. Hull measurement is not ideal, which is why having a base size would be better. They did it for the Defiler, even before they released the Defiler model. That was fine. Will the tank center of gravity be changed by someone on top holding a sword? Possibly. Or if you put lead weight on the back of the tank, that's changing the weight of it rather than the square center area. Things on a base would be easier. They have that debate in Games Workshop, because I've seen it at like Nottingham. Some of the staff for their tournaments had Land Raiders and Rhinos on bases, and they measured to and from the base. There has to be a certain level of no, stop being stupid. No, stop being stupid. No, just stop being stupid. If you're deliberately changing the center of gravity of your tank by where you move the gun barrel, I think you're going to get weird looks. You should turn the weapons on the vehicles to point at the targets. Yeah, because it looks cool and right. But also because of the height thing, if engagement range is still 5 inches vertically. And we've got engagement range here, let's see. That says the engagement range is 1 inch horizontally and 5 inches vertically. But we know it's 2 inches in 11th edition. But if it's still 5 inches vertically, then if you were sat underneath the gun barrel, then you are within range of that model. Whereas if it had a base, you could just pick the base. No, you couldn't. I think it's still going to be that any part of the model. That's something we'll have to wait until the finalized version to see. I wonder if Games Workshop is now frantically editing things based on what people mention. So there's our pivoting. Good, that's in French. That is not very readable. It's also badly pixelated, which is unfortunate. But there's your engagement and your coherency in French. Right, so yeah, you've got to define the chassis, where the main part of the tank is, how vehicle monsters are different, how moving vertically was different. So the idea about moving vertically in 11th edition, infantry can just go straight up. And so can swarms, and so can beasts. It's then mounted things and tanks that can't. But there's not as much area terrain on the tables in 11th edition, at least, you know, the advised versions. There is a lot of area terrain. Lots of area terrain, not as many terrain features. I'm going to keep getting them mixed up all edition. So will a lot of people. A terrain area is the square piece you put on the table, or it could be a piece of paper. Then the terrain features are the ruins and the rocks and the sticks and the barricades. Oh yeah, they're not going to be changing up the rule book. They're just thinking about, okay, what's our pre-day one patch going to be? How can we figure things out and what's happening there? There's a lot of different types of movement. Okay, that's good. Do we have arrival movement? So that'll be ingress move. Again, this will be not well translated because we know it's the ingress move rather than arrival move. I don't know what that would be in French. Advance move, charge move, consolidate, disembark, emergency disembark, fallback rather than retreat movement. Normal movement's in there somewhere. A scout move. Uh-huh. Right, then pivoting. Yeah, so you can move a bit, pivot, move a bit more, pivot. You can pivot as many times as you like. It doesn't cost you 2 inches of movement. That's important because in 11th edition, if you fly, you can fly over any terrain features. I said it correctly, terrain features, regardless of the height of the terrain feature, and it just costs you 2 inches of movement. So we're not stacking that with pivot to be minus 4 inches of movement. Many people thought it would, and they were like, oh, I'm never going to be able to jump over an enemy unit if engagement range is 2 inches. If I'm 4 inches or 5 inches away from them, then I can move up to 3, then go up 2 inches, then I've got to travel 2, 3, 4, 5, and then fully clear the base. That's like 10 inches, and then land. No way, yeah, unless you had like movement 15, you're not doing it. You're not clearing to the other side. So move blocking is still very easy, especially when you have a 2-inch engagement range. If you cannot place a unit, do they snap back? No, it just remains immovable if there's no valid position for all the models in the unit. Oh, that's just only if it isn't possible. Okay. Right, and then there's coherency. So that's the general idea to say, yeah, we're not splitting apart the units. They're not meant to be drifting across the battlefield. They want to be one small group. I don't know if we've got coherency there. No. Where's coherency? Give me a second, I'll find coherency. Because we should have the picture. Set. Nope, not there. Ah, there we are. Right. Age 14. There, so this is the idea. We've seen that picture already. This is, of course, a Frenchified version, which is what says this is a real leak. Yeah, they posted them on Warhammer Community. So the idea of this is when you are moving, every model in the unit needs to be within 9 inches of all other models in the unit. So you can't string out your unit in a line of ones, then have 2 at the ends, so that you're fully in coherency. And every model is in coherency with at least 2 other models in 10th edition. In 11th edition, the only strict rules they've got so far that we've seen are every model needs to be within 2 inches of at least one other model, and every model needs to be within 9 inches of all of the other models in the unit. So then it was shown off on Reddit, well, you could have 2 models on the left, 2 models on the right, then each model is within an inch or 2 inches of at least one other model, and the whole unit is within 9 inches of all of the models in the unit, even though you've got like a 7-inch gap between the left side and the right side. Technically, that's right. Then we've got to see if they've got the rules for how they're going to explain being in one group. Stick in one group. You can't have a split of like so many inches. some extra wording to say something like, I don't know. I can't think of exactly how I would word it. But we had very similar wording in 10th edition. Every model has to be within, well, if it's a unit of 6, every model has to be within 2 inches of at least one other model. So you could have 3 on the left and 3 on the right. Technically that would work, but people recognized that was not correct. That was broken coherency. So there needs to be a rule about having them as one group and having it a bit clearer than normal. Otherwise, stop being silly becomes the rule that we try and do, but that's hard for Games Workshop to police, especially when tournaments will have some tournament organizer. If you can find the right one at your event and you say, hey, this is allowed, right? I'm strictly within the rules. And they're like, yep, as far as I know. This is what tournament organizers sound like, all of them. Yep, this is how... This is how it's going to be. This follows all of the rules. That's perfectly fine and correct. Oh dear. So they called it cohesion in this bad translation rather than coherency. Yeah. Choose a model. Every model has to be within 2 inches horizontally, 5 inches vertically. And everyone in the unit needs to be within 9 inches of all the others. This is indeed a bad translation, as you would expect. I also don't think this will be the final version of the rules. There's too many things missing. Too many things not quite there. The pictures will probably stay the same. I don't think they will change. So if you've seen any pictures on Warhammer Community that you also see here, that works. One of the things I saw is that charge moves, they do clarify how charge moves work. That you can, it does say, if it's a 2-inch charge and you don't have any +1 to the charge, rolling a double 1 is gonna be a fail. You lose. There you go. They should add a line to say you cannot determine range or line of sight from any movable part of a vehicle. Yeah, that could work. That could work. Or just model. Say model. Just in case someone has magnetized things and then they're going to hold the gun sideways and then they get the extra range they want. That would be quite crazy. Right, so the next section is all about the attack sequence. This is more of the important stuff because Games Workshop didn't really say in the articles what's the order of how things work. Does one person pick all of their units, pick their unit, declare all their targets, roll all of the dice for all the different kinds of weapons? Or do they do it one at a time? Right, oh yes, it was also said all of the attacks that share the same profile, and clarified that that doesn't necessarily mean name. All of the stats other than name want to be fired at the same time. So a bolt pistol, even though it's a pistol with the close quarters rule and it's called bolt pistol, its stats are exactly the same as a bolter, which is called a bolter but has rapid fire, but it's all strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage. So you roll all of that at the same time. Now, I think the idea is you, as a defender, you put your guys in groups and you cannot put a character at the front. When people saw the Games Workshop 3 live stream videos, things that were sort of a live stream, but you don't know, it wasn't quite live. We couldn't hear what was happening at the table or why people were doing certain things and what was going on there. That one. People heard what Games Workshop said there and were like, okay, well, Makari's broken, the Dark Eldar Archon is broken, Canoness with her moment of grace to have a 2+ invulnerable save, all super broken, because you'll declare to put them at the front. You'll say, okay, yeah, put all of the shots on here, they're a part of the unit. But this says it has to be part, you can't assign characters to be the first one to take the hits. Ghazghkull and Makari is the one that people are coming back to because that was shown off, and it was also in the free Warhammer Plus battle report. Makari was there. Orc boys go first. Then, because Makari's a character, they go next. Oh yeah, there was definitely lots of mistakes on the live gaming. Both the recorded version and the live one. Phone's ringing, I just need to ignore it. Hopefully it's not like an accountant saying, hey, by the way, you owe a bunch of money. Hello. It's worse, yeah, it's worse for the Archon and Makari because the lowest roll is always going to apply first. So what you theoretically could do, and I mean people do it already, is you have the boys hit first, then you'll take the next one on Ghazghkull, as it's Ghazghkull and Makari. They're both characters. You can choose which character gets hit next. You could take them on Ghazghkull if you see how badly the rolls are going to be. It's still not... Let me have a look. There might be a better translation. Bear with. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'll get that up here. That does look a bit better. Yeah, this is actually more readable. And it tells us what all the different moves are. Okay, let's go back to the weapons. Right, so you choose your weapons and you declare who's firing what. So you still have split firing. That's all the same. That's still allowed. Whereas in combat, you only pick one melee weapon, so it doesn't matter if you equip with 3 or 4. You can still only attack with 1. This is why, like, Guilliman isn't attacking with the Fist of the Emperor and the Sword of the Emperor and the Tiny Knife of the Emperor. So you've got to be able to see at least one model. Got to be in range. Yeah, you can't shoot into engagement range. Right, choose the enemy unit. Choose a weapon and gather your attacks. Use your attack dice. Resolve the attack, and that's in a separate section. Okay. And then you do another weapon. Right. Yeah, and it says identical attacks there. If it's got the same ballistic skill, weapon skill, strength, AP, and damage, it's the same weapon. Bolt pistols and bolters are the same. So we've got hit rolls, wound rolls, save rolls, do damage. Doesn't mention feel no pain here, which is the annoying thing. In 10th edition, they had a little box out to say, oh, by the way, this is where feel no pain comes in. And people could understand it. I pay my taxes, don't worry. Maybe my accountant saying, hey, I just found a load of money. I don't know if it was my accountant. It could have been anyone. People don't phone me at home. It's so strange. What if I tag a hero in a unit with precision damage, but it doesn't kill them? Then the model must be allocated wounds to next. No, not true. So, from my understanding of it, precision attacks, sure, they might damage a character. But the rule that says you only assign to characters last takes precedence over you assign damage to a wounded model. So that wouldn't include attached characters. Yes, you're true. Yes, you're correct that if there's a model already wounded, you have to assign to them next as their group. But I think it'll be assign it to wounded models. However, characters always come last. So you can't tap them with precision and just one precision attack is enough. Otherwise, something like the Aquila kill team. I'll take one sniper, hit a character, do 2 damage to the character, and then, oh sure, they've got 3 wounds left. Now all of the other guns in the unit will blam that character because they're wounded. Yeah, so not to characters. Injured models first, unless they're characters. Characters still come last. That's my reading of the rules. These incomplete version of the rules. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Feel No Pain is indeed annoying and will always be annoying, and I don't know exactly how you're going to fast roll Feel No Pain, because not all of the models have a Feel No Pain in a unit. It might be just one particular character. How does it work against mixed toughness? So, you're going to do wound rolls. Wound rolls. Determining the wounded's characteristics. I think I would have thought they would do the most common. Or I think it said somewhere the highest of the bodyguard. Which means you wouldn't include a runt herder because they're a support character. You wouldn't include a Neuro Tyrant. You would use the toughness 3 of the Neuro Gaunts. And then kill teams will probably still have their own rule to say, okay, if it's an Aquila kill team, don't use the toughness 6 of the Gravis Marine, the 1 Gravis Marine. In this particular case, you use the majority. Unless they were going to change the toughness of the Gravis Marine to toughness 4. And I have no reason to say that's a bad thing. I'm totally fine with them doing that. Okay, good. Good. Then that's basically the same standard way. Visibility will be an interesting one. If there's one model out in the open, the unit isn't hidden, and the unit doesn't get the benefit of cover as long as you can draw line of sight to that one model. If the unit was in area terrain apart from one model that was behind the area terrain that you couldn't see, then they can be hidden, then they get the benefit of cover. But if you can see one model, no benefit of cover, no hidden. Yeah, there's a person there. There's maybe more people behind. Somehow you see the whole unit, and they all get shot. If you want to do Feel No Pain, you could roll the number of Feel No Pains. It's also, we don't know when you do the Feel No Pains. Is it after you've done all of the wound rolls? Like all of the, you've assigned all of the hits. So what you do is you roll all the saves at once. And then you assign them, starting with the lowest dice number, to the first allocation group. The example that they gave... I don't know if we have the picture. No, we haven't got the picture anymore. The example that we've seen is Gemini and Seraphim and Celestine. And they say, okay, we'll put it on the Gemini first, then the Seraphim, then Celestine has to be last, as she is the only character model in that unit. So the 1s come first, and they are assigned to the Gemini. That's enough to kill the Gemini, even though they have a 2+ save. Then the 2s go on the Seraphim, killing some Seraphim, and then the 3s, 4s, and 5s are all saved by the Seraphim, and the 6s. I don't know when the Feel No Pain would come in. If it would come in after all of those wound dice are assigned, or if it was you stop partway through, roll some Feel No Pain, then see if you need to assign more dice to them. Probably that way. Otherwise, hypothetically, if those Gemini had a Feel No Pain, you would kill off the Gemini, then assign the 2s and 3s, well, assign the 2s to the Seraphim that would kill the Seraphim but wouldn't kill the Gemini, and then you stop when all the dice are done, and then you roll the Feel No Pains for the Gemini and realize that they're actually alive. Which would also mean that you could shoot all the way through the bodyguard into Celestine, and then still have the Gemini up. So I think Feel No Pain is still going to be very slow. What you'll do is assign those 1s to the Gemini, then roll their Feel No Pain. Then assign another 1, then roll another Feel No Pain. And then assign a 2, and it's enough. It's fine. They have a 2+ save, so they survive. Probably do it after each individual wound. Yeah. Today is Necron Day. I hope you like a new Star Shatter Assault. I don't know what other Necron things there could be. I've played against Necrons quite a few times. There could be a monolith-only detachment. Roll Feel No Pain for each group until all in the group are dead? Possibly. Yeah, it's easy when there's only a character for Feel No Pains. I'm thinking of Repentia. Repentia with a character. One of the characters that with an enhancement can join. So you have the Superior, who has a 3+ save and a 5+ Feel No Pain. Then you have the Repentia that have no armor save and a 6+ invulnerable save and a Feel No Pain. I don't know if you would say assign a couple of wounds to the character, to the, not the character, to the Superior, or just one. Okay, Superior would die. Roll a Feel No Pain. Okay, assign another one. Roll a Feel No Pain. How many would you assign to the character to do it fast? Would you just do one, then put all of the rest on the Repentia, and then roll one Feel No Pain for the Superior and be like, oh yeah, she lived, but all of the other Repentia died? Definitely means we're not assigning wounds to the Superior first, because if you roll any ones, anything less than a 3, well, maybe you would still want to do it and just hope you roll a 3, 4, or 5, or 6. I think it may be... I'm trying to find out where the groups are assigned. Is it after you know which weapon is going to hit you? Like first? Is it after the dice are rolled that you assign groups? I'm not seeing that in any part of the rules. This is of course going to leave us with more questions than answers, especially around Feel No Pain. No matter. You assign groups after the wounds but before rolling the saves. That makes sense. I can get behind that. You're going to lose a lot more bodyguard people, but your characters will last a bit longer. We'll see if it mentions it a bit further on. Right, for visibility, yeah, you've got to see at least one part of the model. Or one model. I think what's going to happen is people think they know the rules of 11th edition. They'll start playing a game. They'll look up a section of the rules as they're doing it and be like, hang on, this makes no sense. I don't understand it. At one point in, it must have been 8th edition? Yeah, it was 8th edition. If not every model was in the terrain, then they didn't get the benefit of cover, even if they weren't visible. And that was odd. And I think they changed that at some point, if not by 9th edition. Right, mortal wounds and normal damage. If there's ever something that does mortal wounds and normal damage, you do all the normal damage first, then do the mortal wounds. This is important for the Palatine. She does mortal wounds with her attacks. So the good thing is, even if you don't have precision, all of the normal damage will go on the bodyguards and kill off them first. Depends how many successful wounds you get through. Then any mortal wounds the remaining will go on the character that's more likely to have the invulnerable save. That's good. I think it also means that anything that does devastating wounds, because devastating wounds are clarified later on to say, this is a mortal wound, however it does not overspill. You cannot kill more than one model with any amount of devastating wounds. So if you have 6 devastating wounds from one attack, you can at most kill one wound models. One wound model. You won't kill 6 of them. So if devastating wounds are mortal wounds and mortal wounds come last, that's also good. It means that if you're attaching a devastating wounds creating character to a unit, like a Astrid and Agatha to a unit of Sacrosancts, or the Patriarch to a unit of Genestealers, all of the normal things go first with their like AP2. That's going to go on the bodyguard. That kills the bodyguard, and then devastating wounds go on the last things that are left, which sounds like it's going to be the character. What happens if you kill one model and now you lost line of sight? So from my understanding, it's going to be like 10th edition. Resolving attacks. Once you've chosen your target and you calculate at the choose target step, you know which weapons you're firing, you know which weapons are in range, you get your dice ready, and then you resolve the different kinds of attacks all at once. So same as in like 10th edition, if line of sight is broken because your opponent takes off a casualty that was the only one in line of sight, that doesn't mean you stop the attack sequence. I think it means you still get to continue with it, as in 10th edition, not like in 7th edition, where you could only kill models that were in line of sight. Some people liked that, some people didn't. I think we've also seen from the battle reports, where there's only like 2 orc boys can be seen, but all 10 of them are wiped out. So that's like 10th edition, if your line of sight is broken partway through. No, armor saves don't happen before wound rolls, so no. If one part of the model is not in cover, they're not in cover. It depends on the unit type. If a tank is partially covered by a terrain feature, then they have the benefit of cover. If they're in area terrain, no cover. But we've also seen from pictures, like, this is a unit that has one model behind, like out of line of sight, and others in the terrain. They get the benefit of cover. Perhaps I can do more videos in 11th edition about how this doesn't make sense. Why does terrain and cover not make sense? But from the look of it, it makes a lot more sense in 11th edition. And you only need to get your base a little bit onto some area terrain, and then that area terrain, you can see through all of it. You can't see through any terrain features that are there, like solid walls, but otherwise you can shoot pretty much wherever you want. Right, hazard rolls. Hazardous tests, fail on a 1 or a 2, and it's 1 mortal wound, but if you are a monster or vehicle, it's 3. Characters, unless they're a monster or vehicle, will only take 1 wound. That's good news for like the Benefactors. If they hazardous their brain, 1 random neophyte dies, because it is applied to the unit, not the model. Because you make hazardous tests for the unit. Desperate escape is no longer there. You're no longer destroyed if you fall back. It's a hazardous test. So you may be making multiple of them if you're an infantry unit. If you're a vehicle, do you want to risk 3 mortal wounds if you roll a 1 or a 2? And as the hazardous tests are applied to the unit, this means that if you are an Imperial Guardsman firing your plasma gun and overcharging it and you roll lots of 2s, you could give other Guardsmen the death penalty. Yeah, monsters and vehicles will only get the benefit of cover if they're like mostly obscured by area terrain. So if they're like behind the area terrain, not that they're in it, but they're behind it and then a little bit sticking out. Or if their terrain features, like half of a wall, blocks their line of sight to them. Otherwise, just being on pretty empty area terrain, it's fine. Yeah, it's like the plasma guns, you're going to be venting the heat directly into a man's face. So that's awkward. Or you throw the plasma pistol at someone else, it explodes, and then you pick up the plasma pistol. Right, fight phase. Pile-in is done entirely at the same time. The person whose turn it is, let's say the active player, gets to pile in with all of their units at once. Then the other player piles in with all of their units. And that's the pile-in step. Then you fight. Yeah, pile-in is a maximum of 3 inches. So if, hypothetically, something you were fighting is destroyed by another one of your units that's in the same combat, like a 2 against 1, the unit that hasn't fought yet is still eligible to fight and will pile in again. They do an additional pile-in to any unit that's up to 5 inches away. The idea being you move 3 inches, and if you're within the 2-inch engagement range, that's okay. You can fight with your like 1 model that reaches it, or entirely your monster. 2-inch engagement range is pretty big. Age of Sigmar's 3 inches can also seem pretty big. Whereas 1 inch in previous 40k and what we have in Old World doesn't seem like a lot. Like the spears of my skeletons are sticking out the front in Old World and touching my opponent. But you don't want spears anymore. You want skeletons with swords and shields, because then they have a +1 to their save. It's like a 4+ save on a random skeleton, which is not how it should be. Hot plasma pistol rather than hot potato. It does narrow down and clarify all of the confusing things about hazardous that they had in that big update in the middle of 10th edition. There was so much, okay, so if a character takes a hazardous test and they fail the hazardous test, then you put it on any other model that has a hazardous weapon, even if they didn't fire their hazardous weapon. Instead saying, no, someone in the bodyguard just cops it. It works, it's fine. Or it's assumed that, like, in an Imperial Guard squad, if the plasma gunner did die, someone else will pick up the plasma gun. Like an idiot, but they will pick up the plasma gun. It also means you're not losing plasma carrying models and then breaking coherency. You're not going to accidentally your way out of coherency through failed hazardous tests. Age of Sigma is fun. I preferred, like, 2nd edition as the best one. But there we go. Right, fight phase is pretty normal. You get one weapon to attack with, you fight. After everyone has done the fighting, and everyone consolidates at the same time. I think. And then you do end the fight phase stuff. Right, terrain is something I am more interested in. Because before the battle, each terrain features... There's different ways of setting it up. We've seen the maps that Games Workshop has showed off for the mission deck. That is just for the mission deck. So if you want to feel like a rebel and not do it that way, the core rules explain the 3 different ways to do it. What you can do is have something that's entirely exposed. So you put a square of paper on the board, that is area terrain. Exposed or light is like designed to be gone through very easily. I don't know why we have barbed wire as an example of something you can easily move through. Don't think they understand what barbed wire is for. It's not decorative. But that's like an open area. Say this is area terrain. It's broken road. It's some bits of rubble. It's long grass. It's a field. Just a standard field. If you want a good field, cut up a welcome mat. Maybe not one that has the word welcome on it, but any carpet, any kind of mat like that makes a great field. And because it's not too high up off the ground, you can put your models on top of it. They won't sink in or fall through. It's how bolt action players and Conflict 47 players do it. Works pretty well. So you can just have a piece of, like, an area terrain, like the Games Workshop area terrain that they're going to sell. You don't need the terrain features on it. There's some exposed area terrain. That's fine. You can do that. It's allowed. Ooh, welcome to the Legion. The power armor, I guess barbed wire is nothing. Yeah. Maybe you can jump over it. Eldar are nimble enough to not care. Maybe Imperial Guardsmen are the only ones. What if I wanted some trees to be light instead of dense? I see no reason why you couldn't have that. I think it's totally fine. Let's see, what else can you do? It doesn't give an example of trees as a light thing, so it could be more than that. Oh yeah, it gives the example of woods as dense. Yeah, you can have a small tree. Say it's light. I mean, tanks are known for going over and through trees. It's how they fought in the jungles. Just crush it and keep going. Depends if you want a hedge or bocage. If we're being very French today. There's quite a bit of difference between a generic English hedge and the French bocage, which has been there for like 600 years and has roots 12 miles deep. You don't go through that very easily with a tank. That stops you. Right, so one kind of terrain you can just put on the board is just a square of terrain, and it's very exposed and open. Otherwise, you can just have a terrain feature directly on the board. So, for example, a square building. You put that on the table, That is the terrain feature. It's there. You don't need to have an area around it. And what you can have is place 2 or more terrain features so that together they make a defined zone. So if you have some ruins and they're L-shaped ruins, you can put 2 L-shaped ruins near to each other until they make a square, and then there is your area of the terrain. They define the terrain area rather than a piece of card or MDF or paper. This is how a lot of people will be doing terrain. Anyone who doesn't have the mission deck, this is a fine way to do it. Now, do I have quickly an example? Because there was something, I think, in this leaks. Move that out the way. Get that. Can I drop that in here? There we go. So these were deployment zones that I think are going to be in the core rulebook. You can see that they're written in French. They basically match what the mission decks have, but the mission decks have their prescribed area terrain and terrain features. How much you want to stick to that is entirely up to you. I think there may be a comment in this being like, yeah, do your best, but you'll want a lot of terrain. The mission cards give you an idea of where you're going to put stuff. And terrain features, no, area terrain. We have objectives on these maps. So if you put area terrain where the objectives are, that's your objective defining area. Hypothetically, there is no reason why you can't use a circle of mat and say, hey, this is the objective. It will also be area terrain. It could be entirely exposed area terrain. You could say that, 7 and a bit inch diameter circle is a big crater where something is dropped from orbit and you want to collect it. There you go. There's a bunch of terrain. There's a bunch of objectives, and it works. So you don't need to have things set up exactly as is in the mission deck. L-shaped ruins are still here. Kiddie pool of yellow water. Yeah, it could be some water, anything like that. You could go into 11th edition entirely with no terrain features and only bits of card area terrain. You're okay with a completely open map with Tau? Not sure about that. That doesn't seem fun and fair and balanced and correct. So here's your visibility. Right, the hidden rule. I think people are overhyping how much the hidden rule is going to come up. If you shoot, you do not get any benefit of hidden. You are not hidden anymore if you shot in this player turn or the previous player turn. So if you shot in your turn and now it's your opponent's turn, they can shoot back. If you hadn't shot but then you fire Overwatch, the enemy can shoot you in the shooting phase. It only applies to infantry, beasts and swarms. So mounted units that are in cover that haven't shot, they're not hidden. You can shoot them. The noisy bikes are noticeable. Stupid Jackal Alpha Sina. I'm a stealthy sniper. Vroom vroom. Loud bike noises. Doesn't track, doesn't work, shouldn't happen. Tanks and monsters, they cannot get the hidden because they're big and it's kind of obvious that they're there. Even if confusion happens like in the battle, it's like, oh wait, so loud and noisy, I didn't realize that the thing on the other side of that wall was an enemy tank. Well, too bad, that's not quite represented. Hidden will matter turn 1. If anyone has played the Maelstrom campaign book, there you couldn't shoot at enemies over 18 inches in the first turn if they hadn't fired. Keeping track of which units are hidden is going to be the annoying bit. No hidden knights. Some of the rules are like, hey, this sniper unit, like Ratlings, like stealthy Space Marines, they can fire their sniper rifles and remain hidden. Eldar, we saw yesterday. The Eldar Rangers can do that. And stay hidden. I think we're going to see a lot of bikes, generally, in 11th edition. Because we know there's Orc bikers coming. We've got the war track, which can be joined to bikes in some way. Then I think we'll see Space Marine Outriders get their own plastic kit, because currently it's the 9th edition monopose kit. The Dark Angels could probably do with new bikers of some sort. Gene Stealer Cult are fine. I know people really want Battle Sisters riding horses. I don't think it's necessary, but it could happen. There may end up being hidden wars, trading command points to increase or decrease detection values. Possibly. Don't know about that. I think it'll just be a lot of the ranges in like 10th edition. If you were on a dense board, like the tournament boards, pretty much any of the tournament boards, apart from the Games Workshop ones, which had these areas around the side of the battlefield where you could shoot down, your range was pretty limited to like 18 inches anyway. So it'll be, if you're within 15 inches, which is your standard detection range, you can shoot the enemy. And because there's fewer terrain features, it's easier to see the enemies. As people had guessed, as they showed off in the battle report, you can have a couple of guys hide behind one of the ruins and they cannot be shot at. But they're just touching the objective and that's enough to be in it. If any part of the model is in it, you're in it. They also showed off on Warhammer Community like the solid rule. So the ground floor of all of the ruins, all of the doors, all of the windows are assumed to be sealed. If you have the older, like cathedral-y looking stuff with a bunch of statues, and there's this big open gateway that's about 3 or 4 inches wide and 5 inches high, that is also considered to be solid. And you also can't end your move halfway within that doorway. The whole thing is assumed to be a solid block of L for rules purposes. So you don't need to have solid Ls for your tournament tables, but people are still going to have them. Solid is a terrible name for something that you can be moved to. Welcome to Games Workshop wording. I know. It's like all the hidden and obscured things. Wouldn't they maybe be the other way around? If you cannot see them at all, then they're hidden. If you can partially see them or see them close up, they're obscured. But importantly, the benefit of cover is separate to hidden. Yes, it only applies to infantry bikes, infantry beasts and swarms. But if you have something that ignores cover, that does not ignore hidden. They are separate rules. We have stratagems. We know what a stratagem is. We've used them for many editions. This will be the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Yeah, it's 4 editions that we've had stratagems. Got command reroll, which is the same as before. Epic challenge is still there for precision. Insane bravery is still there. Insane bravery is about as useful as it was before. It's still once per battle, as it was on the FAQ'd version, not how it was at the start of 10th edition, where you would just use it all the time to make Battle Shock basically pointless. Once per game. And Battle Shock happens if you are at or below half strength. So if you were a unit of 4 and you take 2 casualties, now you will take a Battle Shock test in the command phase in the Battle Shock step. It's important for units that are not currently Battle Shocked but have been knocked under that half or at that half unit size. They're going to be taking a Battle Shock test, like a character that's by themselves after all the bodyguard is destroyed. If you don't want them to take a Battle Shock test, you have to use Insane Bravery. If they were already Battle Shocked, and you have to retest in the command phase to see if they are no longer Battle Shocked or remain Battle Shocked, which is the only time you roll to see if you're unbattle shocked, you can't use Insane Bravery on them because they're currently Battle Shocked. and you cannot use stratagems on battle shock units. Yeah. So I don't know if there's massive changes to the command phase. That definitely sounds like a video title. Mild changes to the command phase. Yes, our bodyguard units can be regenerated, like by a hospitaller. If you're able to battle shock someone at some point, that's going to be really good. That's why the Patriarch's better. Battle shock. That's why in Transia Fray, walking up and saying, everyone around me gets battle shocked potentially. This is a minor change to the rules. If you have to take multiple battle shock tests in any other like any time, if you pass one of them, you are not unbattle shocked. Some Eldar dude was saying if you leave the board, then you avoid the battle shock test. We'd have to look at the command phase. I think that was also argued for 10th edition. Let me see. Battle shock. See if it's anywhere in this document. Is battle shock hyphenated? Yes, it is. Okay. Well, from the rules I'm looking at the moment, it doesn't say that it only applies to units on the table. Roll for each unit in your army that meets the criteria. Is currently battle shocked. Is at half strength or lower? Yeah, so it's on page 2. Battle shock. So you must take a battle shock test for every unit in your army that meets one or more of the conditions. It doesn't say that is on the battlefield. So if you are in reserve and you've taken a bunch of casualties, you would still be taking a battle shock test. If you're in a transport and there was only 2 of you left, being in the box does not keep you immune to battle shock. Does battle shock now happen at the start of the command phase? No, it doesn't. It's here. There's like little steps. Start the command phase, so anything that says start of the command phase, such as Genestealer Occult Acolytes, they can potentially generate command points on that step. Then you gain your 1 command point, which means you've got a command point for Insane Bravery. Then you do the battle shock stuff. I'm assuming start of the command phase is also when you'll draw secondary missions. We're waiting on the rules for that. Can't actually see that, which is also why it's annoying that even with some leaks, it's not all of the information we need. Then you do the battle shock after that. Then you use any command abilities. So that's when you'll get... Okay, so maybe that's bad for neophytes. Because command abilities is rules triggered during the command phase, other than those stated at like other points, are resolved now. So this is the point when your neophytes would regenerate some models. This is when your Necrons would heal and reanimate. So that means you can't get enough models back to avoid a battle shock test. Unless it says at the start of the command phase you do this. Otherwise, if it's an in the command phase ability, you do it in step 4 after battle shock. We'll have to see what the updated wording on Shadow and the Warp is as to which particular time it's used. It might be, hey, you use this in the ability time, so people have taken their battle shock tests, here's some more battle shock tests. Or you do it in the battle shock step, but it's everything on the board, and they don't have to take any more battle shock tests in that command phase. An updated, errated version would have to be done. Then you get any end of the command phase stuff. So that's where stuff like sticky objectives happens. Yeah, so healing, regenerating people, that's after battle shock. Good, it's good to have these like clear sub-phases, because in 10th edition it was, there's the command phase, and then there's the battle shock step. And that was it. You have to have everything explained in little bits, otherwise what the rules writers thought would happen ends up not being what happens. Like, oh wait, you have a rule around this. As we saw with Games Workshop being like, hey, we're going to take a thing that's about heavy transports. It's all about your big heavy transports, and it doesn't apply to aircraft. Well, I have a rule that says I can ignore the aircraft keyword, so Corvus Blackstar time! Then they stopped that. Because now it's anything that can fly. Killing off my dreams really sucks. Fun stuff that we then didn't have. Right, we were back in the stratagems. I think we've seen all the others. Explosives is grenades, but to make it compatible with 10th edition, anything that has the grenades keyword can use the explosive stratagem. So they don't have to go through every individual unit and say, okay, should you have the keyword or change the grenade wording to explosives? Because they'd forget a couple of units and people would be like, oh, wait, do Dire Avengers not have grenades anymore? That's so weird. It also means that they can add it to other units that don't have it. Termagant should probably have explosives. There's enough weird weapons in the unit. As an upgrade, hey, do you want to take this one particular weapon and it gives you explosives as a keyword? Depends when they come out. Grenades is the same. Almost the same. Almost the same. It's a unit that's not engaged, is eligible to shoot, and has not made an advanced move that turn. So if you have some ability to fall back and still be eligible to shoot, you can throw grenades. Don't know if that's an oversight. But yeah. Take to the skies reduces your maximum movement. It doesn't count as movement. So you can pop up flying units and still get heavy. Well, you'd be moving like not a lot because it's part of your movement. Oh, right, I see. Okay, so you still move 3 inches up and over something. Also, then there's also then you count as being right 2. It lowers the max movement you have. It doesn't count as 2 inches of movement. I get it. I get it. So you can move 3 inches over something, flying over something, taking to the skies, and you could still get heavy. Yeah, that's only if you move 3 inches or less. There's weird, unnecessarily sexy termagant weapons that could definitely be explosives. Yes. Think of the Dark Eldar Cabalites. One of the upgrades that the champion, the unit champion can have. I forget what they're called. Sybarite? That sounds right. Yeah, they can have a special rack, a trophy rack. Instead of a trophy rack, they can have the grenades, and then the unit has grenades. Woo! Good for them. Crushing Impact is, are you sure you want to actually do this? Maybe it's good for only the big things. You roll the number of dice equal to your toughness. For every 5 or 6, that's a mortal wound to the enemy. But for every 1 you roll, that's a mortal wound to you. And I don't know whether this maximum 6 per unit is probably, yeah, you can't roll 7 1s and take 7 damage. The maximum is 6 damage. In the battle report that Games Workshop released, yesterday, 2 days ago, a Morkanaut did this Crushing Impact and took so many mortal wounds itself, took more mortal wounds than it caused, and it exploded. Which is not ideal. Hasty Arrival is Rapid Ingress. That's just badly translated. You make an arrival move, that means ingress move. It's still Rapid Ingress the same. Overwatch is done at the end of your opponent's movement phase. It doesn't matter how many times the enemy has gone around you, or say pause at any moment. It's done at the end of the movement phase. So there's no, oh, I'm moving this unit. Are you sure you don't want to fire Overwatch? You absolutely could. No, it's just done at the end of the movement phase. If someone remains stationary in front of you, you can still fire Overwatch at them, which is strange. There's no Overwatch in the charge phase. This definitely makes one of the Brood Brothers Auxilia detachment stratagems useless rather than pretty much useless. Because in the shooting phase, you can fire it and stop enemies from firing Overwatch. In the shooting phase, which happens after the movement phase. So yeah, if the enemy was in your line of sight at the start of their movement, then they moved out of line of sight, you can't shoot them with Overwatch, because there's no, I will shoot you at the start of your move. If they want to run away, they will run away. Smokescreen is a bit different. The attacking unit... Hang on. It's not to give you the benefit of cover, is it? Until the end of the phase, each attack targeting your smokescreen unit, where it was not fully visible to the attacker due to smokescreen models, gets the benefit of cover. I think we have seen that shown off already in a leak of another kind that was just the corner of an image in a Games Workshop video. And I think it was the smokescreen unit and any units behind them essentially get the benefit of cover. Heroic Intervention has two kinds now. One is Heroic Intervention as you know it, or for 2 command points, there's that +1 command point on Into the Fray, you can just make a charge of at most 6 inches. And that's like the Wrath of the Rock has a stratagem to say, in your charge phase, you can just charge the enemy. In the enemy's charge phase, you can just charge the enemy at the end of their charge phase. Like, oh, yeah. If they're sitting on an objective and going, no, I'm not going to do anything here, I'm just going to sit, you could still charge them. Does Overwatch go to movement phase from charge phase? Good thing or bad thing? Probably a good thing, because it means that if you're against a shooting heavy army rather than one that isn't going to charge you, you can still do damage to them from your guns. Otherwise, the Tau could move up within 9 inches of you, shoot you really close with their breaches, and there's nothing you could do if you could only fire it in the charge phase. There's no thing of like, okay, I can do it at the start of the charge move, but I could do it at the end of the charge move originally. Then they changed it in 10th edition to say, no, you can't do that because people were firing like hand flamers after a charge was completed. Wonder if units that can do Heroic Intervention for 0 command points, like the Von Ryans, can do the fancy one for 1 point. That will probably be an updated version on the unit to say, it's either 3 or 1 command point fewer. Rapid Ingress. Oh yeah, I don't know which order you'll do Rapid Ingress compared to when Overwatch is done. It would take 2 of your command points, and technically they are used on different units, because even though you're doing 2 in the same phase, you're not allowed to do 2 stratagems on 1 unit in the same phase anymore. But yeah, could you do Rapid Ingress to bring on a drop pod, or just use its rule? No, you have to, yeah, you can't Rapid Ingress for free with that. So you'd have to do Rapid Ingress. That's at the end of your opponent's movement phase. And Overwatch, where was Overwatch? Why can I not see Overwatch? Overwatch, there we are. Also at the end of your opponent's movement phase. I guess you could. I suppose that would work. Yeah, Rapid Ingress your drop pod, get the Infernus Marines out. They would have to still be 8 inches away from the enemy. And then declare your Overwatch. Yeah, I don't think there's any massive benefit. I suppose it's 2 command points to get 1 extra round of shooting from that unit. But it could be. It could be. Each stratagem can be used once per phase, and you can't use more than 1 stratagem on a unit per phase. I don't know about Drop Flamer's meta. It's something you could do if you have enough command points. Potentially it could work, because you are using 1 stratagem on the drop pod, and then using 1 on the Infernus Marines. Have a captain in the unit, then it's 1 command point only? Maybe. What else we got? Right. Oh, we have actions in the core rulebook. That's a big change. Usually it was defined in each particular mission deck how long an action lasted and what it was. Right, so doing an action, yeah, same things. Aircraft and fortifications can't do actions. Battle shock units, if it has an objective control characteristic of 0 or dash. So objective control 0 can be modified. Objective control dash cannot be modified. This is just how Games Workshop ruly things work. If you have a save of dash, you cannot get a good save. If you have a save of 7+, you will always fail it. That's an interesting one. Does that mean Gretchen with a 7+ save will now not even get a save even if they're in cover? I guess not. They'll just be dead. Which, yeah, it's understandable. Can't advance and do an action, can't fall back and do an action unless you're in the Bastion task force and a battle line. Then you can. Right, if a unit undertakes an action, right, not that while you're undertaking an action, just if you undertake an action, until the end of the turn, you cannot shoot unless you're Titanic, and either way you cannot charge. So we've seen on some of the primary missions that there's actions that complete at the end of the shooting phase. But if your unit did an action, they can't shoot in the shooting phase, and then they also cannot charge, even though they've completed the action now. But it means if they died in, like, your charge phase because an enemy heroically intervened into them and killed them, they've still completed the action. That's good. Yeah, it's definitely better than Leviathan's if you're eligible to shoot, which was, of course, confusing because it's Games Workshop understanding of eligible to shoot. Which, I don't have a gun. That's okay, young man. You are still eligible to shoot. I have no range weapon. You don't understand. No. You are eligible to shoot under the rules. Because you haven't fired a gun, you are eligible to shoot a gun, even if you don't have a gun. That was such a strange thing. But there you go. Yeah, after we had actions in 9th edition and people generally understood them, then they changed it at the start of 10th edition, then they brought it back in 10th edition. Now we have it in the core rules. That's an improvement. Does heroic intervention grant fight first? There's nothing to say you lose or you don't get the charge bonus. I'm pretty sure when we read it before on like the articles they gave out, heroic intervention. Yeah, of course the problem is if you're surging to defend against an enemy that charged, they're almost certainly going to fight before you because they had fight first, they moved into you, they will fight you. So heroic intervention could be useful if you got two kind of fighter units. One of them has fight first naturally and is in front. The enemy charges that because their fight first will go before your fight first. If you heroically intervene and surge to defend, that gives you fight first. So one of your fight first units will be able to fight regardless. I guess. It's not really that good. I'm overthinking it. But into the fray, that's a charge move. You get the fight bonus. You will fight first if you do into the fray. And the enemy hasn't charged unless they have someone else countercharge. Which, I think is this the end? Yeah, it's the end of the opponent's charge phase, so they won't have someone in combat with you. So yes, if you do into the fray, you will fight first. You will fight first. We still have counteroffensive. Oh, did I miss that one? Because I was wondering if that was there. Which number is counteroffensive? Reading these and I'm blind. Counteroffensive, there it is. The last one. During the fight step of your opponent's fight phase. Oh, only in the opponent's fight phase. Just after an enemy unit has resolved its attacks, one friendly unit is eligible to fight and does the counteroffensive. Wasn't counteroffensive in 10th edition something you could use in either player's fight phase? Let me have a look. Stratagems. Counteroffensive. Yeah, it was either player's fight phase. Now it's only in your opponent's fight phase. Interesting. Interesting. Maybe fight first is a bit better. Yeah. Why is it still 2 command points? Well, the enemy's still going to hit you with 1 unit. The idea is 2 of the enemy units will charge 2 of your units separately. So left enemy unit attacks your left enemy unit attacks your left unit. Right enemy unit charges and attacks your right unit. Their left enemy unit charges and attacks and does their fighty thing against your unit on the left. Then you do counteroffensive, and your unit on the right will fight before the enemy unit on the right that charged them. So your unit gains fight first, and must be the next unit chosen to fight. So it's a very sudden, I have just gained the fight first ability. Something that the enemy cannot really predict, because if on the left we had fight first, obviously they're going to fight first. They're going to do their attacks on the left against us before we can use that fight first. Right, transport. Importantly, can you use abilities while in a transport? I'm thinking maybe yes, because they've had so many rules that are like, oh yeah, we were making these new Celestian Insidiance rules, and we forgot to say you can use your ability if you're starting the game inside a transport, because currently you can't. Like if you have a Primus start inside of a truck, you cannot use their redeploy ability. Good to say we can still have multiple units embarked simultaneously in a transport. That's good, I like that. Decide who's in the transport. You can get inside a transport after a normal advance or fallback move. I mean, I'm assuming that these reactive moves that we have are still going to be considered, say, like this is a normal move. Disembarking. Right, so we've got lots of different kinds of disembark. Okay, rapid disembark. If the transport made a normal move or an ingress move this turn, you do that, you get out 3 inches away. Thank you very much for the 3 monies. That's very kind of you. I have many Sororitas videos planned. Unfortunately, we don't know more about the Sororitas. How they're going to patch all of their rules. What detachment cost each of the detachments are. How many points all of our units are. How many things actually cost additional points. Like, are the multi-melters on the Retributors going to cost more? Are they going to charge us for a hunter-killer missile? If so, I think I'll not put one on the Rhino, but maybe still put one on the Exorcist. Maybe. Will the Exorcist missile launcher be different to the Exorcist rocket launcher? I would hope so. I would really hope so. But we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of wait and see because this is not all of the rules. This is just some of the rules. It's very unfortunate. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy my videos. Right, various ways of getting out. It looks basically the same, except there's now combat disembarking. So you can disembark 6 inches, you'll take a hazardous test on all of your models, and then you're in combat. Ooh, rapid. Oh yeah, it looks the same. If the transport moved and then you get out, you can shoot, but you can't charge. If you did the tactical disembark, so the transport hasn't yet moved, you get out, you can move, and you can charge. And combat, yeah, you're jumping out of a transport straight into someone's face. You are battle shocked. And emergency disembark, it seems clearer than it was already. Make your hazardous roll. And I think it was said that the deadly demise of the transport happens after the unit has disembarked now. Because in 10th edition, you have the model on the table, you roll to see if deadly demise happens, and it explodes outwards. It's not an implosion, it's an explosion, so it only affects things outside. Then you leave the Rhino there, then you get the models out to disembark, then you do your hazardous tests, well then you put the models on the table, then you take the Rhino off. I think now you put your models on the table, or you take your hazardous rolls, put your models on the table, then you roll for deadly demise, then you take a transport off. That would work. Right, strategic reserves. Are they going to say, hey, by the way, you can use abilities in this particular core rules or not? I don't know how Miracle Dice will work with the fast rolling. I don't know if it's going to be you put in a Miracle Dice before making any of the rolls, or you roll all but one of the dice and then decide if you're going to do a Miracle Dice. Or in Army of Faith, all but two. That's another thing we don't know about the sisters. Yes, arrival move should be translated as ingress move. This is machine translated. Games Workshop doesn't force you to have good reading comprehension. Games Workshop takes your reading comprehension, says everything is wrong, we are using double Dutch now. Right, we're getting on the board. Yeah, standard stuff. Before the third battle round, you cannot be placed in your opponent's deployment zone. I've looked up the rules for Deep Strike. Deep Strike is an exception. You can still Deep Strike into the enemy deployment zone on turn 2. Or if you had a way of deep striking in turn 1, you can deep strike into the enemy deployment zone in turn 1. If you had an ability that says count things as one battle round higher, then yes, you could end up in your opponent's deployment zone in turn 2. Right, oh, that's important. Arrival move. After moving, until the start of the next charge phase, not eligible for any other movement types. Now, Genestealer Occult players of the final day? Adeptus Sororitas players? Who does that affect? Who is that really going to upset? Because one of our units likes to move after arriving. What we do in the final day is we have gargoyles arrive from reserves, then they shoot, and they move in the shooting phase so we can get them closer for the Catalyst Aura. We can't do that anymore. Seraphim cannot drop down near to an objective, shoot the enemy off the objective, and then move onto the objective, as I liked to do. Ooh, that's a bit annoying. I wouldn't say rip jump ladies, but it's not ideal. I don't think there'll be exceptions. I think this is there to stop generally stuff like that. Yes, no firing and fading after arriving. So you'd have to like rapid ingress, then in your next turn. Oh, now it says the next charge phase, not your next charge phase. So if you did rapid ingress, then the enemy's charge phase happens on your turn. You can normal move and shoot and move after shooting and charge and all whatever it is. Codex rules usually succeed the core rules. Yes, it's gonna depend on. I mean, that's not saying like if the Codex rules said after arriving from reserves you can do this. Otherwise, no, you can't do it from the core rules. What about the starting on the board exception for Deep Strike? No, if you make an ingress move, if you arrive from reserves, there you go. You can still charge in your charge phase when you arrive. That's good and important. Can you heroic intervene after rapid ingress? Yes, you could, because you're only prevented from doing any kind of move until the start of the charge phase. Either player's next charge phase. I haven't really looked at the new Interceptor detachment. It's something I'm going to have to do very soon. And we'll have a look at all the different detachments and be like, which ones were good, which ones were bad, which ones were just plain confusing. Right, at the end of the third battle round, unless otherwise stated, all strategic reserve units that have not made arrival moves are destroyed, except units embarked in transports that made an arrival move this turn, and repositioned units. So that's going to be units that were at some point on the table and moved into reserves. So we still have the same thing. If you have like a unit, I'm assuming this should also apply for Cult Ambush, your unit was on the table, they were destroyed. They are now repositioned into Cult Ambush. It's turn 4, they're not instantly destroyed. It's okay. You could be kicked off the table in turn 2. You are not destroyed at the end of turn 3 because you are a repositioned unit. That's my understanding of those rules. Right, got attached units. So it's a bit more general. A lot of things just go together now, and that is them for the whole game. We don't know how many things are going to be reworked to say you can have a leader and a support unit. Some of them might be, this particular unit, like Celestian Sacrosanct, you can only have one character regardless of whether they're leader or support. That might be a rule they add to Sacrosancts. Otherwise, yeah, we can have Junith Eruita and a Hospitaller in the Sacrosanct unit. That'd be pretty nasty. If her -1 to hit, which might get changed to you just have the benefit of cover in this unit, but that's still running out into the open, -1 ballistic skill for enemies to shoot them, and then -1 to their wound roll because of the Sacrosanct rule, and then a 5+ feel no pain, and resurrection even if all the Sacrosancts are removed. Hey, it might be a lot of points, but that could be pretty good. Might also mean we can have 2 characters in Metamorph units. Since they have a unit size of 10 and they die trivially, you probably don't want to do that. Right, if you have a unit in reserve and a transport on the board edge, can the unit jump into the transport? Well, you can't use Overwatch on the unit that went into the transport because Overwatch is done at the end of the movement phase. It's not at the start or end of any move. We'd have to look again at the transport rules to see if you can get into a transport that just arrived from reserve. I can't think of a reason particularly why you'd want to do that, other than you've got half a transport capacity open, or you got 1 unit out and 1 unit in. I'm now curious enough to look. Embark. A friendly unit may embark in a friendly transport after its normal move. If the unit has not been placed on the battlefield this turn, doesn't mention the transport. I guess you could bring a transport on and have them get in. And there's nothing, unless I'm like completely blanking on it, there's nothing to say you can't have 1 unit disembark and another unit embark in the same turn, because I like my bunker truck tactics for the Genestealer cult. The Metamorphs get out, go off and flame things. Some neophytes who've used sticky objectives will get into the truck and be safe, and then the truck will move away, and then they'll use firing deck. You also get a crazy amount of movement from Dark Eldar. I will advance with this Kabbalite unit, jump into the transport. The Raider then moves the other side of the table, and because it's the Raider that's shooting, you still get to use the firing deck. Right, we'll get on to attached units. Oh yeah, we will get fewer miracle dice. Oh, I'm going to make a note of that. Fewer miracle dice. Because it used to be that when a unit was destroyed was like the bodyguard is destroyed. And then each character was its own unit. And so when each of them was destroyed, then we have like 3 miracle dice from all of that. Instead we'll get 1. Yeah, will Necron still get to reanimate if there's only the character left? I think they will, because reanimation protocols is also on the character models. So that should still be possible if you have a Necron Lord and his shieldy men, Lich Guard, they all get taken down. Yeah, you can still reanimate them. I think it's still possible. A lot of different things. Yeah, we'll have fewer miracle dice. That's not good. They could, of course, change to be whenever a character model dies or a unit is destroyed, a non-character unit. Yeah, you're right, Lynx. It could be like that. It could be like that. Then we still get one when Celestine goes down and then gets back up, and then we get another one when she goes down again. I think they probably have to do something like that because we have enhancements in like the Hallowed Martyrs to say when this model is destroyed. Oh, it's when the model's destroyed, isn't it? That would still work. Yeah, so with the characters being part of the whole unit, if the bodyguard's entirely wiped out, leaving just the character, they now will have to take a battle shock test. Rather than going, it was only my bodyguard, why should I care? This is how Death Leaper works. Death Leaper kills the bodyguard and leaves the character alive. Right, keywords of attached unit. An attached unit has all the keywords of its component units. Models do not gain keywords of other units in the attached unit unless they already have them. So this is a difference between models and units. So if something affects monster models, that will only affect the Neuro Tyrant in a Neurogaunt Neuro Tyrant list unit. If it's a anti-Psyker thing, that will affect them because even though the Neurogaunt models are not Psykers, the Neuro Tyrant is, so the whole unit has the Psyker keyword. Right, ooh, good. Abilities, when do they stop working? So abilities affecting a single specific model apply only to that model, right? Otherwise, abilities affecting a unit apply to every model in the attached unit until the source is destroyed. Ah, right, good. So in our way previous example from like an hour ago, if you have a Space Marine captain with a unit of intercessors and all the intercessors are destroyed, the captain does not have objective secured because the bodyguard unit's datasheet ability was what gave them that. If you have an Icon Ward with Metamorphs and all the Metamorphs get wiped out, the Icon Ward cannot do their Surge move because the bodyguard that gave that ability are gone. Right, there's an asterisk here, so they may not change all of the particular wording right now on like to do a big FAQ on all of the characters. Asterisks, leader support units continue to benefit from their own abilities as long as that model leads a unit, even after their bodyguard unit is destroyed, providing they began the battle in an attached unit. That might be all we see of an FAQ on how it's going to work. You can mess up. Yeah, anything that had like advance and charge, and they have to do like a stratagem that's advance and charge in the no, that would apply to the whole unit. That would apply to the whole unit, I guess. Yeah, I was thinking like if it's any acolyte unit, you use a stratagem in the movement phase, they can advance and charge, and then Overwatch happens and it kills all the acolytes except the characters. No, I think they're fine. They're fine. Looking at this also means in the Xenocreed congregation, acolyte units, I think you'll also lose the keywords at the same time. So like acolyte units that are led by any character get to reroll their advance and charge rolls. If all of the acolytes are killed, then that was a bodyguard unit, I think, gone, so the keyword is gone, so they wouldn't get to reroll advance and charge rolls. I think. This only mentions abilities, it doesn't say anything about keywords. But probably the ability would stop working. Like, it has brackets datasheet ability. Don't know. Most advance and charge strats are in the charge phase, but some of them are used in the movement phase. Some of them, especially like fall back and charge, it sometimes says use this in the movement phase, you can fall back and charge. Most of the time, no one cares when it's done. We are well past the days of oh yeah, I was meant to use this stratagem in the movement phase to fall back and charge, to advance and charge. Your opponent isn't going to say, "Nuh-uh, not allowed." Ooh, because the tournament organizer, if there is one, or other people are going to be like, "Stop being stupid. It's fine. It's had no real impact or effect on the game." Yeah, we're past save and wound allocation stuff. Definitely. What's the best beginner detachment for Genestealer Cult? To get a good feel of Genestealer Cult, Host of Ascension, if you like all of the infantry and the deep striking stuff, a good beginner one is Biosanctic Broodsurge, because you don't need that many models compared to most Genestealer Cult armies. Aberrants are cheap to paint, easy to paint, and they're pretty expensive in terms of points. And it's a relatively simple playstyle. Things go into infiltrate, then you charge. Right, aircraft. So there's nothing about hover. All aircraft have to start in strategic reserves. Plunging fire has no effect on attacks made by or targeting aircraft unit. I would have thought that the aircraft that's about a mile up in the air would have had plunging fire. But models that are 3 inches up, they get plunging fire if they shoot down. And if, well, I'll have to look up that. How does it work? Is it every model needs to do it? Oh, just some models will get it. I was thinking like the enemy has a couple of models on a higher platform. You have a couple of models on a higher platform. Do you get the plunging fire or not? I'm pretty sure you would on just those models, because it's +1 ballistic skill on those particular attacks. As they have a separate ballistic skill to the other models in the squad, you roll their attacks separately. Towering units get plunging fire if they're within 12 inches, but aircraft don't? Huh. Okay. Aircraft units are not eligible to charge. They can only make melee attacks targeting flying units. Ooh, is that pretty bad for the Helldrake? Like that Chaos Space Marine thing that flies along with the claws. You're not eligible to charge. You're just not eligible to charge. Is that no longer going to be an aircraft? Is maybe what I'm thinking. Will it just lose the aircraft rule? Possibly. They might say a bunch of things that you thought were aircraft were not aircraft. Anything that can hover may suddenly stop being an aircraft. The Corvus Black Star might stop being an aircraft. Still doesn't let them use the Strong Spear Point Task Force because it was changed. But I think anything that can hover will just lose the aircraft rule. Leave aircraft for real aircraft. So they have to make an ingress move. They can't do any other kind of move. At the end of the opponent's turn, all aircraft units on the battlefield are placed into strategic reserves. Okay. I don't think you move the aircraft. Is that what that's saying? Like, you set them up on the side of the board, whatever they can see there is what they shoot, and then at the end of your opponent's turn they leave. If you engage with aircraft, you can still make a normal move. Okay. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. A dash move, that's probably an advanced move, surely. Bad translation. I don't think there's ever a time when you actually move them. Yeah, you can leave while in engagement range. Yes, there's nothing if you only leave the board if you're not in engagement range. The point is, you will turn up on the board, the enemy will have a chance to shoot and charge you. Then you leave at the end of their turn. Don't fly around them in a circle. Yeah, there's no hover mode, so what I'm thinking is a lot of units are just going to lose aircraft. Rather than saying if it can hover, then you have the option of being aircraft. Because we haven't got the hover rule in here. Oh, there is a dash move. What's a dash move? Is that a surge move? Yeah, it's a translation for surge move, I think. Yeah, so you can surge move into one enemy unit. So we've got all of them there. They're in the core rules rather than the rules commentary. It's a surge move. The only thing that's going to be different is going to be how far you move. For some units, it's D6. Some units, it's 6. And then for like World Eaters, it's D6 plus 2. Which is a crazy far surge move. Flying models are capable of flying. Woo. They will announce they will take to the skies. Subtract 2 from their maximum distance. So you don't count as having used 2 inches of movement. You were movement 12. You are now movement 10. Then you can move up to 10 inches. That's how it works. So if you were, as we said with heavy, you're a big fella. You then move 3 inches. But by taking to the skies, you can still use your heavy ability. It's a better version of fly than what we've had before. Right, oh, there is an exception for monsters and vehicles. Moving them. They can move through friendly and enemy models, except other monsters and vehicle models. Right, so when we were thinking, okay, well, it says right at the start in the rules, you can move through other units. Are we going to have rhinos clipping through rhinos? No, we're not. But interesting that the monsters and vehicles can just naturally move through enemy units. Of course, you still have to end out of engagement range. You can only enter engagement range by doing a surge move or by charging. Right, and then the hull, which in the French version is called chassis, I think. So the hull, some models have no base. Many of these are monsters and vehicles. They will have the hull keyword. When measuring distances from the hull, measure to and from the nearest point of the model. Okay. Not necessarily from its base. So if you did put your rhino on a base, you would still use the closest point. Like if you had a Land Raider or Lehman Russ on a base and the front of the tracks were over the front of the base, you would still measure from the tracks. Yes, pivot on its central axis. And you can fight about the central axis. During your shooting phase, monsters and vehicles that are engaged may be chosen as target of range tag. Right, so this is half of big guns and have a tire split up and put here. So you can shoot at them, but you subtract 1 from the hit roll. That doesn't say -1 ballistic skill. That says -1 from the hit roll. Except when you're using close combat weapons. And it doesn't make any exception for pistols, which are close engagement weapons. The line can move through your screening unit and charge your backline. Yep, that's how monsters will work. They are very much line breakers. The knights look to be having a very good time. You've got plunging fire on all your ranged weapons if you're within 12 inches of the enemy. And I think if they're not... No, I think it even applies against enemy Titanic models. Yeah, I mean, they're a big target, so sure. Oh, right, you think close combat is meant to be close quarters. That would make sense. Yeah, it says ranged attack, so yes. That's close quarters, ranged attack. Yeah, so pistols, let's just call them pistols. We know what we mean by pistols. Pistols get the exception. Good. Thank you, chat. Right, abilities. We have a bunch of abilities. Yep. Weapon abilities only apply to that weapon. Duplicate abilities. Multiple instances of the same ability do not stack. If you have stealth and you have the benefit of cover, which gives you the benefit of cover from stealth, that is not -2 ballistic skill, even if that was possible. It's only 1 lot of the benefit of cover. Multiple weapon abilities do not count as duplicates, so sustained hits 1 plus sustained hits 1 is sustained hits 1. 1 plus 1 is 1 in Games Workshop land. Assault. You can still fire that weapon after an advance move. Blast, add 1 to the attacks for every 5 models in the unit. Rounding down. Yeah, so if there was 9, that's 1. Then that where it says close combat isn't close combat, of course. It's the pistol rule. I'm just going to call it pistol. Yes, everyone can touch terrain and shoot through. Knights are going to have a much easier time for sure. No, they're not going to make sustained hits additive. Yeah, pistols, when using another blah blah blah. Right, so each model, this is on models, not units. Each model can either fire a pistol or any other ranged weapons it has. So, for example, in a tactical squad, you can fire the bolters and the plasma gun and the las cannon, and the sergeant can fire their pistol because that model is choosing to fire their plasma pistol rather than their bolter. It's not that the unit will fire one plasma pistol and nothing else. That would be silly. And it's not that way. But many times in last edition, I've been asked, hey, should I even bother putting like a big laser on my Atlan Jackals? Because if the rest of the unit is firing these pistol keyword shotguns, I'm not going to get to fire my las cannon. It's like, no, it's one or the other. Per model. Per model. Devastating wounds. On a critical wound, attack sequence ends. Target suffers the damage of the mortal wounds instead. Max of 1 model per critical wound. I think that's meant to explain, like, you can only kill 1 model. Yeah. There are many different translations of this document. I don't have the original French version anymore. I saw it once, briefly, and I was like, I can't read that very well. Something comes après something. I don't know what that means. Which order do we do that in? Heavy's a little bit different. You get +1 to hit if you're not engaged. So if you had a heavy pistol, then you don't get +1 to hit. You're not placed on the battlefield this turn, so you can't rapid ingress or just ingress and then say, I haven't moved, so heavy applies. Nope, no it doesn't. It was the whole thing of like, you count as having a normal move, but you haven't made a normal move. No, you made an ingress move in 11th edition. Also, that is a move, and also you were set up on the board. You don't get heavy then, but you can move a little bit if you're on the table. You can move up to 3 inches. We first saw this with the Saramite Sentinels detachment. A lot of things were about if you've moved 3 inches or less, you get bonuses. Then you are entrenched. Ignore cover, no benefit of cover, no -1 ballistic skill. Which does mean that a lot of the flamer weapons are kind of pointless, because they have torrent, which auto hits, and they have ignore cover. Games Workshop has said quite a few things that are going to happen. For like flamers, it's changed up, so they'll get something better. I know Apres is after, I know. That's some of the French words I know. All right, someone said I can speak French, but this is so bad I can't read it. Yeah. So quite a bit of it is guessing. Yes. Ceramic 3 detachment point sentinels. That's right, because it affects the whole army, so it kind of makes sense. I wonder how many detachments will survive until the Space Marine Codex. Most of the detachments, perhaps all of the detachments, will survive for all of the different things, for all of the factions. We're just waiting to see how many of them cost which particular detachment points. Very interesting stuff. But we can't see that yet. Never mind. Lance is the same. +1 to wound. If you saw a Games Workshop Warhammer community article saying you get to reroll the wound roll, they said in a Q&A, oh no, that was an oopsie, that was wrong, that was something official we put out that was incorrect. Again, they've also said previously psychic attacks, you can ignore penalties to hit and wound. Psychic is here. Ignore modifiers to ballistic skill, weapon skill, and hit rolls. That's it. Nothing about ignoring modifiers to the wound roll. Melter is exactly the same. It's good for sisters because if you can ingress move into what you can be up to 8 inches away. We have, well, just over 8 inches away. If you have 18-inch range multi-melters, which you do, that is less than 9 inches. You get the melter rule when you arrive from reserves. Shame about our Seraphim and their melter pistols being only 6-inch range. Lethal hits. Oh, you may choose to automatically wound the target. No wound roll is made. and then it cannot be a critical wound. Good that they're saying that. But if it's got may choose, that's very useful for anything that's devastating wounds and also lethal hits. I'm thinking Deathwatch. Deathwatch big hammers. 3 devastating wounds. Do you really want to pass up on that when you have strength 10, so you're probably going to wound anyway? If it's a you may choose to automatically wound the target, nice. That's an improvement. That's an improvement. I'm seeing a lot of improvements. I'm just wanting the rules to come out properly. Then we can actually think about playing them. It's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. Now, I do have other things to play, of course. I've got a video on Conflict 47 that's going to go live in, I think, 15 minutes. No, in 45 minutes. Comes out in 45 minutes. Because I was waiting on some Warlord Games stuff, because supposedly today is the day that a bunch of Invasion America stuff goes on pre-order. Yes, it is available as a pre-order. Ooh, they look pretty. Maybe we'll have a look at them later. But I have an affiliate link in the description if you want to click on that and look at Warlord Games and see about all of the stuff that's coming for Conflict 47 in Invasion America. It's Japan against the United States. A lot of crazy things. Okay, that's good. That's good. Improving the keywords. You can see how broken the neck run detachments are. They'll probably be fine. Twin Link still rerolls wound rolls. Torrent weapons automatically hit. Yes, sustained hits. Your attack generates X additional hits. I'm hoping they clarify further that it's you don't need to then roll to hit for that hit. It has automatically hit. Because there were a lot of people in 10th edition that were playing it like the 9th edition way, where, oh yeah, you rolled a 6, so it's essentially sustained hits 2, so you'd roll 2 more hit dice. But no, because then they could, like, in turn trigger more sustained hits, and that wasn't allowed. Have they also got rerolls mentioned anywhere? Because that was a question that came up a couple of times, like, because you do rerolls before you trigger criticals. Indirect fire cannot reroll hit rolls. That's an interesting thing. So you cannot do Desolation Squad, Oath of Moment, reroll all the hit rolls, but you were hitting on 6s. Snap firing, including Overwatch, no rerolls. No mention of it. Right, and command reroll, if you roll a load of dice together, you choose one of the dice to reroll. Except with charge rolls, where you reroll both dice. Okay, just doing a Control F. Right, bonus attacks. Yeah, I wonder if they'll have, because it was something in the rules commentary, that bonus attacks cannot gain more attacks. It's an interesting one. But that was something that really should have been in the core rules, if it's going to be there. Yeah, you can prepare for 3 years of similar. Maybe an improved version of 10th edition. And it looks like an improved version of 10th edition. Especially with the characters being one unit. It's not like, oh, hey, yeah, so you've got to break a thing and not break a thing. It's not on the rules commentary, it's on the keyword itself. Oh, that's cool and useful. Wonder if that's actually going to be in this document. The real one, the proper one. Death Throes X, Deadly Demise. Which could actually be renamed to Death Throes. I don't think it should be. It'll be Deadly Demise. Yeah, you roll a dice on a 6. Each unit within 6 suffers the set number of mortal wounds. Deep Strike, you can be placed anywhere more than 8 inches. So it's more than 8 inches, so you're not within 8 inches. This matters for charge rolls. You need to roll a 9 on the charge to pick something as a charge target. But yes, you can explicitly be put in the opponent's deployment zone. Discretion, that's stealth. For each ranged attack targeting the unit has the benefit of cover. Fight first, you have fight first for the unit. Firing deck, when you chose to, you do the firing deck, resolve the firing deck, shoot the firing deck, shoot the guns from the firing deck. Embarked units are not eligible to shoot until end of turn. Okay. So if you then somehow got out in the shooting phase, I suppose if you like hazardous exploded yourself from doing firing deck stuff, then the unit that's placed at the side cannot shoot if you use the firing deck. Yeah, there's your hull keyword. Infiltrators is a bit closer. More than 8 inches from opponent's deployment zone and enemy units. Not 9 inches, but that's because of the 1 inch of difference in charging. Because you now have to pick someone within the charge distance as your charge target. You don't roll a dice and then move, and then if at the end of that move you are in engagement range, it's a valid charge. That also stops things like pivoting your model and then making the move. So think of a Dark Eldar Raider. It's a huge thing that goes way out of its center of mass. You roll a dice, and if you're measuring from that unit current in 11th edition, if you've got like a 9, if an enemy unit is within 9 from where you currently are, they are an eligible charge target, and then you can charge them, doing your pivot as you go. You can't say, well, I know it's not eligible at the moment, but if I swivel like this, then it is. No. Yeah, there's the only reference to feel no pain. Pain resistance. Each time a model would lose a wound, roll a d6 on the number the wound is not lost. And it's definitely the damage value of the characteristic, rather than after rolling a failed save, you can ignore the wound roll. It's badly worded. We don't know if that's because it's a bad translation, or if it's because Games Workshop has still not fixed how the wording of wounds works. You have lost a wound. Oh, that means that one of my injuries is healed. That's not how Games Workshop English works. The Scouts, as it's written here, is different to what Games Workshop told us about Scouts yesterday. Okay. Firing deck is just when chosen to shoot, no longer says in the shooting phase. Interesting, so maybe you can fire Overwatch from firing deck. Potentially. No, we still don't know really how Feel No Pain will work with the whole fast rolling. It still feels like you'd have to stop after a wound is allocated to a model, and then you'd roll Feel No Pains for that model. And then you'd go back to assigning more wounds, and then back and forth. Alright, in the other game it still had to be slow rolled. Yeah, Feel No Pain is just such a problem. Really dislike it. Change the toughness, change the wounds characteristic, change the armor save of a model. Please do something other than giving it a Feel No Pain. I want to see when the Codex has come out, nothing seems to have a Feel No Pain, even though they used to have a Feel No Pain before. And then we slowly phase it out over this edition. Or just don't. In 12th edition, we'll just go back to Index and it'll be a whole different game. Somehow, but still with the same moving, then shooting, then charging. At least it's like 3 years of basically the same as what we've got at the moment, which some people like, some people don't like, but it looks to be a better version. Mostly, they'll have to do a lot of relearning what they've already done. Like, we'll have to have a rules commentary for this before the game even comes out, which might be a big copy of the previous rules commentary. Be like, oh yeah, when we said this, we meant actually this. And we'll have to clarify the maximum values that things can go to. Like damage value, you cannot reduce damage to 0 unless you set the damage to 0. If an attack is damage 1 and you're -1 damage, that does not mean you're totally immune. This was also something that they sent out to, like at the start of 10th edition, they sent it out to a bunch of people who were like Art of War, I think, Tabletop Titans, whoever it was that they got on stream this week, last week, to show stuff off to. This week, it was Monday, wasn't it? Yes, it was Monday. They told them last edition, oh yeah, you can reduce things to damage 0. And the rules came out and they're like, no, you can't reduce things to damage 0. Who told you that? Crazy people. Aura abilities. A model is always in range of its own aura. Triumph of St. Catherine benefits from the Triumph of St. Catherine. Right, faction abilities. Every unit of a particular faction has an ability. These are called army rules. Good. Or faction rules. They only apply if the army faction you choose matches the faction keywords on the unit's datasheet. So, if you have Tyranids in the final day, you do not get your faction abilities, you do not get your army rules, you do not have Shadow in the Warp, you do not have Synapse. Yep, equipment abilities are the same. We have to clarify starting strength and half strength depends on the number of models in your unit. So if you're just the one model, it's your remaining wounds and your wounds characteristic as determines it. If you had 2 or more models, it depends how many are dead. So if you had Old One Eye and a Carnifex in the same unit, and the Carnifex loses 4 wounds, that is not below starting strength. Same as in 10th edition. Once you've lost a Carnifex, you are at half strength. Right, destroyed units. Resolve. Is it not going to say anything particularly clever? It's just been destroyed units are destroyed. Resolve any triggered rules, then remove it from the battlefield. If destroyed by an attack, rules are resolved and the unit removed after the attacking unit's attacks are resolved. Okay. Destroyed models and units cannot use abilities. So that would suggest that the Canoness, with her ability to make stratagems cost 1 command point fewer, could not use that to make the Divine Intervention get back up stratagem 0 command points. Eligible to fight but unable to fight. If all eligible units are more than 5 inches from... Yeah, if you're more than 5 inches away, because that would be like a 3-inch pile-in and then the 2-inch engagement range, then you can pass. Okay, if both players pass consecutively, or if one player passes and the opponent has no eligible units, the fight step ends, right? So you could temporarily say, oh, this unit is eligible to fight, but there's nothing they actually can get to at the moment, so they pass. Your opponent then kills a thing, and now there's the space for them to get in, like there was a big monster in the way. That's now dead. Oh yeah, my unit is now eligible to fight because there's something that can get into. Alright, that's the whole thing. I don't know if we learnt anything today, but that's how it also is whenever we get something that comes off like... anything on Warhammer community. Yeah. Yeah, you should be visible to yourself, yes. Yes, Battle Shock is at half strength, not below half strength. Did we talk about remaining stationary for indirect? No, but we probably should, because we got something else for indirect there. Indirect fire. Come on, I want to interact with you. Be interacted with. What page is indirect on? Indirect fire, use indirect fire rules 10.07. Page 6, okay. Indirect fire, right. So you can still fire directly with indirect fire weapons. Even if you're firing an indirect fire weapon indirectly, you can also use your other guns to shoot directly. You can't do indirect fire if you're engaged. So even if my Exorcist sadly was in combat with something, I cannot do an indirect fire shot at something I can't see. I could fire my Exorcist missile launcher at the termagants that are scratching at the hull, but I couldn't fire indirectly. Can't do it if you made an advance move. So I'm thinking, in the Gladius Task Force, if you did the Devastator Doctrine that lets you advance and still shoot, you could still shoot, but you couldn't shoot indirectly. Okay. You do normal attacks, but you can attack units that are not visible, not including lone operative models. You cannot use indirect fire to snipe away indirect Yeah, to snipe away at models that have lone operative. We know that from the lone operative rule. The target gains the benefit of cover, so that is -1 ballistic skill. You cannot reroll any hit rolls, so you cannot do Oath of Moment combined with your Desolation Squad. Unmodified hit rolls of 1 to 5 fail. Unless you remain stationary, so you have to remain stationary to fire indirectly properly. You could move and fire but only hit on 6s. Otherwise, you have to stay still. And the target is near friendly units. So I think that's visible to friendly units. That's what it's going to be. In which case, you're still firing indirectly, still like 10th edition, a 1 to 3 still fails. One of the detachments for the Battle Sisters that I can't remember the name of, Choir of Cooperation, let's call it that, where Seraphim work together with Exorcists, there is a stratagem to get +1 to hit. That would offset the benefit of cover. Now, that does not mean that, so when you're firing directly, a 4, 5, or 6 automatically hits, it's that a 1 to 3 always fails. So if you were, I don't know, a Basilisk, and you hit on a 4+, and to say there's no heavy, because you remain stationary, even though you remain stationary, there's no heavy, so you're -1 because of the benefit of cover, so you're hitting on 5s, a 1, 2, 3, 4 would fail. But an Exorcist that hits on a 3, -1 ballistic skill, even with +1 to hit, a 1 to 3 will still fail. So that stratagem is only really useful if the enemy has like another -1 to hit from something, or if you're just firing directly, you can hit on a 2. Few rules have no end timing. Oh yeah, there's probably a lot of that. There's usually that whenever they bring out a new detachment. It's like, oh, yeah, I kind of wanted that. When does that end? Who's to say? Who's to say? Very awkward. Remaining stationary will definitely annoy the Ridge Runners. Yeah, if you've got one on your home objective and you want to fire the mortar indirectly, stay still, fire the mortar indirectly. Hitting on a 6 is not good, but you should have something around that you can hit on a 4+, although it'd be -1, so hitting on a 5 or 6. Not ideal. I think mortar Ridge Runner stonks have gone down. Laser Ridge Runner stonks will be better. Having a Survey Auger also, so that anything else shooting ignores the benefit of cover, very valuable, especially outside the Host of Ascension. Good. Alright, so we say the Necron 1 is here. Very good. Let's take a look-see. We haven't changed the core cover, but never mind. Necrons. Okay, Necron faction focus. Yep, last faction focus, so if you were expecting something for the Imperial Agents or Death Watch, they'd already confirmed that no. Imperial Agents are not getting new detachments, Death Watch are not getting new detachments, but as Space Marine version, they can still use the Space Marine detachments. And we're still having unsure fights about whether or not that means Death Watch is basically dead. What we really need answering is the Black Spear Task Force still around? Is the Index still around? Can we still use all that? That's important. Hand of the Dynasty. Ah, right, so it's more Silvertide stuff. Does it have a rule? Yeah, you can't use it with other Dynasty detachments. Sorry. Not combining this with the core one that everyone plays. Let me see what we've got. Right, yes, the Silvertide, it's a good way of doing it. So, hypothetically, if that detachment, Awakened Dynasty, is 3 detachment points, this is a way to say, okay, I'm playing 1,000 points or 1,800 points. I only get 2 detachment points officially. I think most people are going to be like, hey, we're playing 1,500 points. Let's have 3 detachment points. Please. This is a way of doing a bit of silver tiding. So Immortals and Necron Warriors, they have Assault. And you can still do an action. Oh, it's a Bastion task force, but for the Necrons. Yeah, okay. The Immortals might get the Tools of Dominion. It's an upgrade. Rapid Fire 1. They already have sustained hit. No, they already have lethal hits on their Gauss weapons. They already have sustained hits on their Tesla weapons. You can have rapid fire and sustained hits. Oh, that's quite a lot of shots. Okay. Nano saturation. What's that about? Your opponent's shooting phase when the enemy targets an Immortal or Necron Warriors unit. Your unit shoots back doing snap shooting. Alright. Ooh, Etheria, you're quite right. If Awakened Dynasty was 3 detachment points, having the clarification, yeah, it would be kind of pointless. However, I think what they're going to do is make Awakened Dynasty 3 detachment points, and then just in case they were to change it at some point to say, actually it should be 2 detachment points, then it still can't stack with this. Yes, it's snap shooting. Snap shooting, we know you cannot reroll a hit roll. You still get critical hits, so sustained hits and lethal hits will still work. But any of these shoot back things are all hitting on 6s. So if we get something like, is it Praise the Fallen it's called, or Rejoice the Fallen in Hallowed Martyrs, that's going to be shoot back but only on 6s. If they decide to keep around the Remain Stationary original Space Marine Codex Imperial Fist style, can't remember what it's called, task force, the Sitting Still task force, they have a shoot back thing for 2 command points. That's also going to be hitting on 6s. It was quite strong because the idea was you're shooting normally plus you're stationary, so you get heavy, so you get +1 to hit. That was pretty nasty, but yeah, that'll all change. And I think that detachment, the one I'm describing that I can't remember the name of, that will probably go away in the Codex. It makes, yeah, with Praise the Fallen being not as good, that's like the shooty part of that Hallowed Martyrs attachment removed. There's very little shooting in there. Thinking of the Hallowed Martyrs, we have 6 stratagems. Yes, there's Deliberately Explode, which is funny if you really want to do it. But otherwise, they're all very combat stratagems. Divine Intervention to get back up. Spirit of the Martyr is Fight on Death. We haven't seen in the core rules they've got Fight on Death, which is annoying. What's that? Celestians. Oh, thank you very much for the 10 monies to get some Celestians with guns. Thank you very much. Right, they haven't got Fight on Death in the core rules. That'll be another rules commentary thing where they try and explain how Fight on Death works there. Spirit of the Martyr is still going to be around. I think it was the Votan. Yesterday we saw... Oh, yeah, yesterday we saw the Votan. There is a fight on... No, not yesterday. 2 days ago? 2 days ago. 3 days ago. Many days ago. This week. The Votan. There was a Fight on Death thing. And you no longer fight on death when the enemy has finished their activation. So you're not doing like half a unit, then another half of the unit. You do fight on death when your unit is chosen to fight. And then after it's done its fighting, then it's removed. Because there's no problem of like getting in the way of pile in, because you do pile in at the end of the fight phase. So you're not preventing the enemy from piling in. This makes it much easier and means that Fight on Death, if 11th edition is like parallel to 10th edition, I was pretty sure you could use stratagems on units that are fighting on death, and it would affect even the models fighting on death. And you could also use stratagems in reaction to it, like Armor of Contempt. In 11th edition, you very much can, because the enemy has to be selected to fight even if all the models in the unit are dead. So you can get Armor of Contempt against them. You can use other stratagems that are like, hey, yeah, this unit's going to have +1 to wound. Things like Divine Guidance. No. Are we back connected? Yes. Yes, we seem to be back. The difference between a 1 detachment point, 2 detachment point, and 3 detachment point detachment. The 1 detachment point detachments are only going to have, at most, 3 stratagems. And they're really focused on like 1 or 2, maybe 2 units. So, for example, this one, the Silver Tide one, the Hand of the Dynasty, that's all about the battle line units. It's very much like the Bastion Task Force, but I expect the Bastion Task Force with its 6 stratagems in the Space Marine Force will be 2 detachment points because it's still about battle line. There's a couple of ways you can affect other units, but it's probably going to be 2 detachment points because it's got 6 stratagems. The 3 detachment point ones are where the detachment rule affects your whole army. It's like every faction keyword unit can do this. Which is why maybe Host of Ascension is 3 detachment points. Because it is whenever a Genestealer cult unit comes from reserve. Even if it doesn't work really well with transports, it could work with transports. And it has, 6 stratagems. Right, what are the Tomb Blades doing? Flying around. Tomb Blades have deep strike. I thought they did already. Okay, yeah, they're just fast. Whenever selected to shoot, if they made an ingress move, you get +1 to hit. Alright, so you're like coming from reserves, sort of. Coming from the teleporty special realm, the way that the... Why are we disconnected? Reconnection successful. Yes. It dropped temporarily. Yeah, giving the unit deep strike means you can help attach characters. Are there any characters that can go with the... what are they called? Tomb Blades? I don't think there is. Oh, and have we got a new version of the Locust Destroyer? This is all about the Locust Destroyers. Alright, so this is your horrible Destroyer cult thing, but rather than being the detachment they gave at whatever point it was that they got it, which is not like the Flayed Ones and Combat-y Scorpeth things. It was like, hey, if this is going to be the one in the Codex, if this is going to be about the Necrons and all of the Destroyer cults, why does it do nothing for the actual Destroyers? The Flying Destroyers? Why are they left out? The Annihilation Legion, that was it. Yeah. So this is just to say, okay, this is for your Flying Destroyers, and it can be combined with the Annihilation Legion. That'll be 2 detachment points. This is 1 detachment points. There we go. Ooh, you get Assault. Lovely. They've got dodgy protocols, evasive protocols, so if the strength is higher than the toughness, -1 to wound. Then Pharaon's Armory. Am I miscounting? Is that 4? Hand of the Dynasty. Sky Shroud Spearhead. Oh no, that's just in Sky Shroud Spearhead. Oh, that's an enhancement. Oh, okay. That makes more sense. Thought someone was giving the Necrons 4 detachments. Then Pharaon's Armory. That sounds like a rewording of a title. Do you think this is Star Shatter Arsenal by another name? Empowered Engines. Titanic Fly units have +6 to their move. That's a monolith. And you cannot do this with Hypercrypt. Okay. Yeah, it's about the monoliths. You can use the monolith's Eternity Gate. It's about the monoliths. Yes, so the Necron ones cost 1 detachment point. And take them all together in Strike Force size games. We can do a bunch of things together. So yes, we can see that Annihilation Legion is 2 detachment points. That's all the faction focuses. We've seen all the new things. Next week, you get a chance to read over the core rules for the game itself. Early next week. Wonderful. Then we can have a proper look over the rules. I'm no longer bothered about this leaked version. I don't think many people were really super hyped about it regardless. There's not a lot of, oh yeah, I've got to see these immediately. Not that interested. I've got a surprising number of people, or maybe it's just me and my magnetism. Couldn't be that though. Couldn't be that. They say infantry fly units instead of jump pack. Hey, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah, you could just go, rather than having a jump pack unit, it's infantry fly, which means we'll have to rework the wording of... I mean, there's no reason to have jump pack as a keyword. But that means our Army of Faith, will they have to get their rules reworked? Yeah, because it's Adeptus Sororitas jump pack unit. I suppose it doesn't need to be reworked, because you're going to keep all of the keywords as we've got already? Probably that. And they can't get into rhinos. Ah, yeah. So they're not going to remove the jump pack keyword. Can't have Seraphim in rhinos. Interesting question. It seems from previous editions they provided all the necessary rules free online about a week or so before the official release. Do you think they'll follow the same pattern? Probably, yeah. And then we can look at them and then we can say, hey, Games Workshop, this is stupid. And there's a lot more things that will say, okay, this doesn't work, none of this works. So what does that mean? Monday next week? Oh, that's so annoying. I have so many videos planned specifically for specific times. It's too soon to drop the rules. So that means they're going to drop the rules early next week. Great. That's good. Maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday. Then we can look at the core rules. Does that mean they'll be pre-ordering from the 6th? It might. We also want to see the FAQs and patch stuff about the sisters. If we get any kind of, hey, here's how your new army will work. This is how the faction will operate in the new edition. That's what I'll be looking at rather than the core rules. I feel like I'm core ruled out. I've got the gist. Yes, we've got to be the beta testers for the beta testers before Games Workshop actually releases the rules in its digital form and it gives them time to scrabble together some kind of rules commentary. So I'm guessing, I don't think it's been confirmed by Games Workshop, just heavily assumed that it'd be pre-order on the 6th and then release on the 20th. I am very busy on most of the weekends, if not all of the weekends, from now until the start of July. So it'd be great if they didn't do anything super special on a special weekend. But yeah, they'll probably release the box game on the 20th. So when they start doing pre-orders, if they start doing pre-orders next week, I'll have affiliate links that you can pre-order from, and it is way cheaper than going through Games Workshop. And they've told us that the cost of the one launch box, which isn't really a starter set, is going to be between £150 and £200. So in American terms, what's that, $275 roughly? It's an absurd amount. Truly an absurd amount. Don't like it. Don't like it. Especially not for intercessors. Especially not for some okay Vanguard veterans that I'm just going to make my own version of, depending on the rules available, because I have some half-built. I've got the torsos and the legs. That's all. Wonder if we can start making army lists. Yeah. Those are the rules that I'm actually interested in. How many detachment points is each thing? What are the actual rules? And then I can make a video about them, and then that video can turn out to be incorrect in a month. And then we'll get to, oh, I don't know, July, and they'll change the rules again, and then there'll be an emergency patch in September along with the Space Marine Codex. The patches will never end. Here's a version of the core rules. It's not the same. Oh, you're buying the cards? I'm tempted to print the cards. Hopefully there's enough versions of them going around that there's a printable version will come out from some kind person who has a scanner. Because the cards are too expensive. There were comments yesterday when Games Workshop was showing off their new card deck. It's like, hey, get this card deck. And most of the comments were like, I got the last card deck and I used it once. This was a waste of money. Or I got the card deck about 6 months after it was printed, because that's when it was actually available again. I haven't really been able to use it. But the good stuff is, hey, in the core rules, there's an explanation of how to set up terrain in the core rules. That's good. So many times I'll have to redo stuff. I mean, how many times did I do a January? How many times did I do a Battle Sisters week? In theory, only the once, because I didn't do all of them. But I definitely did a Final Day already. I did a Xenocreed, I did a Biosanctuary Brood Surge, I did a Host of Ascension. Yeah, the core rules, the physical core rules, are going to be outdated before release. That's the weird thing. We're going to get the rules at the start of next week, so like the 1st? I keep forgetting we're still in May. It's been a very long May. Handwrite the cards, yes, as long as you've got card stuff. You could just have card sleeves and you draw and you write on the sleeve. I don't know if that's considered like arch heresy for someone who plays Magic, but there you go. So we're going to get the core rules next week. Then we're going to have to test them and explain them. Crazy stuff. Want to get points? Points document has to come out. So many things. So many things. Okay. I think that's a good live stream for today. Because we've been going on for 3 hours. That's a perfectly reasonable live stream. Unless I keep going for just a little bit longer. So in 7 minutes, I'm going to release a Conflict 47 video. If you like Conflict 47, then please go and look at the Conflict 47 stuffs. Otherwise, let's just take a quick look at the new things they've got. I am in Nook. There's a new Slammer Samuels model. I don't think a new one was needed, but there you go. You got these weird ghost shinobi people. That's cool and strange. And you got a whole army. So you got a whole Japanese army. Entire battle frame kit? Ghost attack infantry, ghost attack platoon. That's a weird platoon commander. Ooh, okay. And then from the look of that, more America stuff. So yeah, there's the Invasion America book. And they're going to start doing Mark II armor for the Americans. Ooh, prototype Mark II armor. I don't know if I like that. I think only the Axis should have the Mark II armor. There you go. We also should get, before ever this releases, an updated Commonwealth stuff. So then we'll get more Commonwealth robots. We'll get B for Bertie. We'll get Mark IIc platoon commander. And you'll be able to get Mark IIs with Tesla cannons. What's the Conflict 47 scale compared to 40k? They're basically the same. The newer Conflict 47 stuff, or well, especially the new stuff. Can't find any of the new stuff there. There we go. There's your robots. But them, like the Galahads, they did an older version of the Galahad, which was like basic 28mm. Now they've gone the bigger, like 30mm essentially, or 28mm heroic. It's essentially the same as new 40k stuff. So you could use these in 40k, you could use 40k stuff in this. Could be good as AdMech. Pretty fancy stuff. I need to get some of these sent to me at some point. Or bought. I suppose I could buy them with my own money. But what are affiliates for? If not prodding them to say, give me free stuff. You like the American walker? Yeah, that's a linebacker. Is there a new linebacker somewhere? Oh, that's a fancy... Oh, okay. That's a squat thing. Big cannon. A DM40 Mello. A medium walker. Alright, so there's a little bit of new things for the Americans. Maybe. Okay, that looks pretty good. The book could be fun. Before the book ever comes out, I'll get a review copy and I'll go through the book and see what's interesting about missions, what's changed in the rules, and I think that should be separate to any new detachments that they do, because I assume they'll do like a Ghost Squad platoon. Don't know if there'll be a new American one, because you already got a Firefly detachment. Be upsetting to give the Americans more free stuff. Make a Necron army, yes. Yes, you could. Good Sekitar proxies, especially the Mark IIs, because the Mark IIs are actually decent size. They're like a good inch taller than any random infantry guy from 40k. Yeah. Right. I'm going to end my live stream because I said I was going to end my live stream. So, we've had a day. Video coming out. I'll have to see about making videos for this weekend or the future. Especially now we know that we're going to get the core rules on maybe Monday. Maybe on Monday. Alright. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.